They gave Lola Richardson 60 seconds to shift before the silver axe fell. 60 seconds to prove she wasn't human. 60 seconds to save her life. Alpha Jordan McBride, the fated mate who had rejected her 3 times, stood before the execution platform while the entire Silvercrest pack counted down. Then, with only seconds remaining, something ancient moved beneath Lola's skin. Golden light exploded around her, and Jordan's certainty shattered. When he finally understood what was awakening before him, even an alpha could no longer remain standing. But no one yet knew why Lola's wolf had been silent for 20 years. Chapter 1. The Execution That Failed. The execution platform stood in the center of Silvercrest's training grounds, a monument to pack justice that had witnessed bloodshed for 3 generations. Today, it was supposed to claim another life. Lola Richardson's bare feet dragged through the November mud as 2 warriors hauled her toward it. Iron chains circled her wrists, rubbing the skin raw until thin streams of blood ran down her hands and disappeared into the freezing rain. She didn't resist. What would have been the point? She had no wolf to call, no supernatural strength to break the chains, no family rushing forward to defend her, no pack willing to believe her. She had nothing. 300 wolves surrounded the platform in a suffocating circle. Their eyes flashed amber and green beneath the dark afternoon sky. These were people Lola had known since childhood, people she'd helped, people she'd eaten beside and trained beside. Now they screamed for her death. Murderer. Wolfless leech. Kill the human. A rotten apple struck Lola across the cheek and burst against her skin. She barely reacted. Humiliation had stopped hurting in the ordinary way, a long time ago. 20 years of being treated as defective had hollowed out that part of her. Then Lola looked toward the platform. Alpha Jordan McBride stood there. Even with death only minutes away, her traitorous heart stumbled at the sight of him. Jordan was 6 feet 4 inches of controlled violence dressed in ceremonial black. Rain had plastered his dark hair against his forehead. His jaw was clenched so tightly that Lola could see the muscle twitching beneath his skin. 3 years earlier, the moon goddess had whispered his name into Lola's dreams. Mate. The most sacred word in their world. Jordan McBride was supposed to be hers, and Lola was supposed to be his. But when she'd told him, Jordan had looked at her with disgust. I reject you. He'd rejected her again when she'd tried to explain that the mate bond was real. Then a 3rd time when she'd begged him to give her a chance. 3 rejections, 3 scars across her soul. Yet the bond had never fully broken. A mate bond could not be completely severed unless both sides finished the ritual. Jordan had rejected her, but he'd never completed that final step. So Lola had remained trapped between 2 states. Not truly his mate, not free to move on, nothing. Beside Jordan stood Roseanne Willis, the beta's daughter. Roseanne was beautiful, curvaceous, polished. Everything Lola had been told she wasn't. She clung to Jordan's arm while arranging her perfect features into an expression of grief. A lace handkerchief touched eyes that held no tears. Bring the prisoner forward, Jordan ordered. His alpha command rolled across the grounds with enough power to make wolves in the crowd whimper and lower their heads. The warriors shoved Lola toward the wooden stairs. Her knees slammed into the mud. Pain shot through her legs. Jordan, please. Do not speak my name. His growl vibrated through her bones. Jordan descended 1 step and stared down at her like an avenging god. You are accused of murdering my sister, Cassidy. Lola's stomach twisted. You were found with her bloodied necklace inside your quarters. The pack healer confirmed that your scent was on it. I didn't kill her. Her voice cracked. Roseanne gave me that necklace. She told me Cassidy wanted me to have it as an apology gift. I didn't know there was blood on it. I swear, Jordan, I didn't know. Roseanne released a dramatic sob and buried her face against Jordan's shoulder. Oh, Jordan, how can she stand there and lie like this? I tried to be her friend. I helped her when everyone else mocked her for being wolfless, and now she's blaming me? Jordan immediately wrapped an arm around Roseanne. When his gaze returned to Lola, there was no warmth left in it. The evidence is irrefutable. My sister is dead. Her necklace was discovered in your room, and your scent covered it. Because I touched it. Desperation tore the words from Lola. I didn't hurt Cassidy. Jordan, you know me. We grew up together. You know I would never. I don't know you. The words were colder than the rain. I know a wolfless human somehow remained inside my pack for 20 years. I know a weakling who has brought us nothing except embarrassment. His expression hardened. And now I know a murderer. The crowd roared its approval. Lola stared at him. This was her mate. The man the moon goddess had chosen for her. And he believed she deserved to die. The punishment for murdering pack royalty is death, Jordan announced. The crowd quieted. Lola Richardson, you will be executed at sunset. Her blood seemed to freeze. Jordan continued. You have one opportunity to prove that you are not human. Shift, and I will grant you a trial by combat instead. Lola stared at him in disbelief. I can't shift. You know I can't. Then you will die as the human you are. The warriors seized her again. They dragged Lola up the stairs. At the center of the platform waited the execution block, its dark wood stained by generations of blood. A curved groove had been worn smooth by the necks of condemned wolves before her. They forced Lola onto her knees. Then they pressed her neck against it. From there, Lola could see almost the entire pack. Hundreds of faces watched her with hatred. In the front row stood Ruth Conrad, the healer whose testimony had helped condemn her. Beside Ruth stood Henry Matthews, the head warrior who had discovered Cassidy's necklace. Then Lola noticed someone else. Far behind the others, partially hidden by shadow, stood an elderly woman with silver hair and cold eyes. Luna Miriam McBride, Jordan's mother. Their eyes met. For one brief moment, Miriam smiled. It was not the smile of a grieving mother watching her daughter's murderer die. It was a smile of satisfaction. And suddenly, Lola understood that something was terribly wrong. But there was no time left. Executioner, Jordan called. His voice rang across the training grounds. Prepare the blade. A huge man wearing a black hood stepped forward. Dustin Gentry. He had served as Silvercrest's executioner for 20 years. In both hands he carried a heavy silver axe. The metal gleamed beneath the dying light. Silver. The one substance capable of killing werewolves as efficiently as humans. The crowd began chanting, "Justice! Justice! Justice!" Lola closed her eyes. So this was how her life ended. 20 years of being called weak, useless, human, 20 years of loneliness. And now her own mate would become the alpha who ordered her death. Wait. Jordan's voice cut through the chanting. Silence fell. Lola's eyes opened. Something dangerously close to hope stirred inside her. Jordan came down the steps until he stood directly before her. At this distance, Lola could see the dark circles beneath his eyes and the strain in his shoulders. For just an instant, something flickered across his face. Doubt? Regret? You have 60 seconds, Jordan said quietly. Lola stared at him. 60 seconds to shift and prove that there is a wolf inside you. If you do, I'll grant the trial. His face hardened again. But if you can't? He didn't finish immediately. Then he straightened. You die. Jordan, I've tried for 20 years. 60 seconds, Lola. He stepped backward. Starting now. Dustin moved into position and raised the silver axe. Someone in the crowd started counting. 60, 59, 58. Lola's heart hammered violently against her ribs. For 2 decades, she had tried everything. Meditation, training, prayers to the moon goddess. Hours spent alone, screaming silently into the deepest part of herself. Nothing had ever answered. 55, 54, 53. Please. The plea existed only in her thoughts. If there is any part of me that is Wolf, please answer me. I don't want to die. Not here. Not for something I didn't do. Nothing answered. 48. 47. 46. The counting grew louder, more excited. Bloodlust thickened the air. Lola looked at Jordan for what she believed might be the last time. He stood rigidly beside the platform. His hands were clenched. Amber began bleeding into his eyes as his wolf pushed close to the surface. Jordan had a wolf. A powerful one. And he was going to stand there while Lola died, because she didn't. 35. 34. 33. Fine. Something inside Lola became still. If she was going to die, she would not spend her final seconds begging people who had already decided she was worthless. She lifted her head as much as the execution block allowed. She closed her eyes. And then something moved in the darkness. A presence. Vast. Ancient. Furious. You were never wolfless, child. Lola's breath caught. The voice had come from inside her mind, but it wasn't her own. It was deeper. Older. Its power vibrated through her bones. You were caged. 28. 27. 26. Who are you? Lola's thoughts raced. The answer came immediately. I am what they feared. The presence pushed closer. I am what they tried to bury. Lola felt heat gathering behind her ribs. I am yours. 20. 19. 18. The warmth in her chest kept growing. Through the damaged mate bond, Lola suddenly sensed Jordan's wolf, Fenris. He had become restless, pacing, whining, agitated by something Jordan himself didn't seem to understand. 15. 14. 13. The heat inside Lola exploded. It rushed through every vein like liquid fire. Her eyes flew open. The world had changed. Colors became impossibly sharp. Sounds separated into layers. She could smell rain, mud, fear, excitement, sweat, and lies. 10. 9. 8. Lola's bones cracked. Jordan's eyes widened. Wait. 7. 6. 5. Roseanne went white. No. Her voice was barely audible. No. That's impossible. 4. 3. 2. Golden light erupted from Lola's skin. It was so bright that screams tore through the crowd as wolves shielded their eyes. 1. The silver axe fell. And shattered. Chapter 2. 59 Seconds to Salvation. The sound of breaking silver rang across the grounds like 1,000 bells striking at once. Fragments of Dustin's axe scattered over the platform. Some buried themselves in wooden posts. Others rained into the crowd. Dustin stumbled backward and dropped the ruined handle. Blood seeped through his gloves where the force of the impact had torn his palms. Lola remained on her knees, but she was no longer trembling. Steam curled from her skin as the freezing rain struck her body and evaporated. The golden light had not disappeared. It pulsed beneath her skin like a second heartbeat. With every beat, it grew brighter. What's happening to me? Lola asked silently. The ancient presence inside her didn't answer. It was too busy breaking free. 20 years. 20 years trapped inside Lola's body. 20 years smothered, buried, denied. Whatever lived inside her was not weak. It had never been weak. It was something enormous that had been imprisoned for so long that its first taste of freedom came with rage. Impossible, Jordan whispered. He had frozen beside the platform. His alpha instincts were screaming contradictory commands. Protect. Run. Submit. Jordan's breath caught. Submit? That command hadn't come from him. It had come from Fenris, and that terrified him. Roseanne's carefully controlled expression finally cracked. She's using dark magic. Jordan, kill her now before. Silence. The word came from Lola. But the voice wasn't entirely hers. Two voices seemed to speak together. Lola's, and something older, deeper, infinitely stronger. The command struck every wolf in the clearing like a physical blow. Throats closed. Words died. Even the strongest Silvercrest warriors could no longer speak. Jordan's own mouth snapped shut. His alpha authority, the power that had ruled every wolf in the pack, suddenly meant nothing before the force emerging from the girl he'd sentenced to death. Lola slowly lifted her head. Her eyes opened. They were no longer the hazel eyes Jordan remembered from childhood. They burned molten gold. 20 years. Lola rose. The chains around her wrists groaned. 20 years, Miriam McBride. At the back of the crowd, Miriam's face lost all color. 20 years of suppression spells. The iron links stretched. 20 years of wolfsbane hidden in her food. The chains snapped apart. 20 years of lies. Lola stood fully upright. Did you truly believe you could imprison a golden Luna forever? Chaos erupted. Golden Luna? That's impossible. They've been extinct for 800 years. Run. But nobody could run. Pressure rolled outward from Lola's body. It pinned wolves in place with an invisible weight. Jordan finally forced words through his throat. Lola, wait. If you really have a wolf, then we can what? She turned toward him. Jordan took an involuntary step backward. The damaged mate bond he'd ignored for 3 years suddenly erupted between them. Before, it had been a faint pull. Now it became a command, written into instinct itself. His mate. His queen. Submit. Fenris howled inside Jordan's mind, clawing against his control, desperate to emerge and bow before her. You can give me a trial? Lola asked. Contempt sharpened every word. You can show me mercy? Jordan's face tightened. You were about to behead me, Jordan. 60 seconds ago, you were willing to murder your own mate because you were too proud to listen. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. The light beneath Lola's skin intensified. Her cheap gray dress began ripping at the seams as her body changed beneath it. Your mother poisoned me for 20 years to keep my wolf dormant. She convinced you I was human. She planted the evidence. Lola pointed toward Miriam. She killed your sister and framed me. Jordan looked as though the ground had disappeared beneath him. What? His head shook. No, that's... Ask her. Lola's voice became a snarl. Ask the woman who stood at the back of this crowd watching her plan succeed. Miriam's eyes widened. Ask her why Cassidy's blood was on the ceremonial dress she thought she'd burned. Every head turned. Miriam's expression hardened into rage. You stupid girl. Jordan stared at his mother. Miriam lifted her chin. I did what was necessary. Do you understand what a golden Luna would have done to this pack? To the hierarchy? You would have taken my son's authority. You would have. You killed Cassidy? Jordan's voice was barely a whisper. Miriam stopped. Jordan stepped toward her. You killed my sister to frame Lola. She discovered the suppression spells, Miriam hissed. She was going to tell you. She was going to ruin everything. Jordan's face crumbled. I built this pack, Jordan. I made you alpha. I wasn't going to let some wolfless nobody destroy everything I created. The confession hung over the training grounds. Mother, Jordan's voice broke. What have you done? But Lola barely heard him. The creature inside her had waited long enough. It's time, the ancient voice whispered. Let me show them what they tried to destroy. Lola's bones began breaking in earnest. A first shift was supposed to be agony. Young wolves often screamed for hours while their human bodies tore apart and reformed. The fortunate ones lost consciousness. Lola did not scream. She threw her head backward and roared. The sound was primal. Inhuman. It swept across the training grounds and rolled into the forest beyond. Birds burst from the trees. Small animals fled through the undergrowth. Every wolf in Silvercrest felt cold race through their blood. That sound didn't belong to an ordinary wolf. Golden light exploded from Lola in a pillar that pierced the storm clouds. Thunder cracked. Lightning split the sky. But the lightning was gold. The rain intensified, yet every drop evaporated before touching Lola. Steam and light formed a glowing dome around her. Inside it, her human body disappeared. Her spine lengthened. Her limbs changed. Fur spread across her skin. Not brown, not gray, not black. Metallic white fur shimmered with golden tips, as though armor made from starlight had covered her entire body. Her face extended into a powerful muzzle. Ivory fangs appeared. Her hands became massive paws. Claws capable of tearing steel emerged. And Lola kept growing. When the light finally dimmed and the steam cleared, a wolf stood upon the execution platform. Calling her a wolf barely seemed accurate. She stood nearly 10 feet at the shoulder. Even the largest alpha wolves would have looked small beside her. Golden light rippled through her fur. Her eyes burned like twin suns. Every breath seemed to make the air heavier. The golden Luna, the avatar of the moon goddess, the rarest and most powerful creature in werewolf history, and Jordan McBride had just tried to kill her. The enormous wolf slowly turned. Her golden eyes settled on him. She opened her jaws. One word entered the mind of every wolf present: bow. It wasn't a request. It wasn't even an ordinary alpha command. It felt like gravity itself had spoken. Jordan's knees buckled. His pride demanded that he remain standing. His alpha instincts told him to fight. But his body refused. Fenris took control. Jordan fell lower, then lower, until his forehead touched the mud. Around him, 300 wolves collapsed at once. Warriors. Hunters. Healers. Omegas. Rank meant nothing. Every one of them lay prostrate before the golden Luna. Only Roseanne remained on her feet. Fear alone seemed to keep her upright. She staggered backward. This isn't possible. The massive golden wolf looked at her. Roseanne stopped breathing. You wanted to become Luna. Valeriana's voice echoed inside Roseanne's mind. You wanted power. The wolf glanced toward Jordan. You wanted him. Roseanne shook her head frantically. You murdered his sister. Another step. You framed me. Another. You smiled while they dragged me to my execution. I didn't. I never. Roseanne tried to lie. The words failed. Something about the golden Luna's presence made deception impossible. Truth was dragged from Roseanne as though poison were being pulled from an infected wound. Fine, she screamed. Yes, we did it. Jordan's head jerked upward as far as the command allowed. Roseanne was sobbing now. Miriam and I planned everything. Cassidy discovered the suppression spells. She threatened to expose us. We couldn't let her tell Jordan. Then Roseanne pointed at Lola. And you were always in the way. That pathetic wolfless girl he was supposedly mated to. Even without a wolf, he looked at you with love, Valeriana finished. He looked at me with love when we were children, before you filled him with lies, before his mother convinced him that I was weak. Roseanne's face twisted with hatred. You were weak. You deserved to die. The golden Luna moved. She didn't leap. She didn't attack. She simply descended from the platform. Each enormous paw made the ground tremble. She stopped in front of Roseanne and lowered her head until their eyes were level. I am going to give you a gift. Roseanne trembled. The same gift you wanted to give me. Valeriana's eyes flared. Nothing. Roseanne screamed. She clawed at her chest, then her throat, then her head. Something inside her was being torn away. Her wolf. Her connection to the pack mind. Her accelerated healing. Everything supernatural that made her a werewolf vanished from her soul. When the screaming ended, Roseanne collapsed. She was alive, but empty. The golden undertone had disappeared from her skin. Her eyes looked dull. Human. Roseanne Willis was now completely human. The woman who had spent years despising the Wolfless had become exactly what she hated. Go, Valeriana commanded. Walk into the human world you despised, live among them, die among them. The great wolf turned away. And understand that you did this to yourself. Roseanne curled into herself and sobbed. Valeriana no longer cared. Her attention swept across the fallen pack. Then her eyes found Jordan. He was still kneeling. His head remained bowed. Tears ran down his face and disappeared into the mud. Look at me, Jordan McBride. Jordan slowly raised his head. Every instinct told him not to. The wolf stared into him, and Jordan felt her presence enter his mind. She moved through memories. Intentions. Regret. He couldn't hide anything. Finally, the Golden Luna spoke. I, Lola Richardson, reject Jordan McBride as my mate. Jordan stopped breathing. I reject him as my alpha. Pain began spreading across his chest. I reject this pack and everything it represents. Lola's voice became absolute. The bond between us is severed. The break was audible. Like a rope snapping beneath unbearable tension. Jordan's mouth opened. No sound came. The damaged bond he'd spent 3 years refusing to acknowledge disappeared completely. Pain ripped through him. Jordan collapsed face first into the mud. His body convulsed as his soul tried to understand the sudden absence of something that had been there since fate first connected them. The Golden Luna watched him for a moment. Then she turned. One leap shattered the execution platform beneath her. She flew over the pack, over the boundary, into the dark forest beyond. No one tried to follow. No one could. As the golden glow disappeared between the trees, the crushing pressure finally lifted. Wolves gasped for air. Jordan remained in the mud, broken and crying. Miriam stood frozen while the truth of her crimes spread through the pack. Roseanne, stripped of everything she'd valued, lay curled on the ground. The wolfless girl Silvercrest had condemned was gone. The Golden Luna had risen. Chapter 3. When Gods Kneel. The dark forest had earned its name. Even during daylight, its canopy was so dense that only narrow beams of sunlight reached the ground. At night, darkness became nearly absolute, broken only by the occasional glow of a predator's eyes. It was rogue territory, a dumping ground for exiles. Violent wolves, broken wolves, wolves considered too dangerous for ordinary pack life. 3 days after her execution, it was also where Lola found herself. She had spent most of those days running. Her enormous golden form could cover miles in minutes. The wolf inside her had finally given Lola a name, Valeriana. Valeriana guided them farther and farther from Silvercrest, away from Jordan, away from the execution grounds, away from everything Lola had known. But even something as powerful as Valeriana needed rest. 2 days earlier, Lola had finally shifted back inside a small cave. The change had been disorienting. 1 second she had been a 10-foot golden wolf. The next she was a naked, shivering 20-year-old woman covered in mud and sweat. You'll adjust, Valeriana had told her. Rest. We are not safe yet. Since then, Lola had found a stream and washed herself. She'd made crude clothing from broad leaves and vines. It looked ridiculous, but it was better than walking naked through rogue territory. She had learned that Valeriana's abilities remained partly accessible even in human form. Lola's reflexes were fast enough to catch fish with her bare hands. So she ate, walked, rested when necessary, and kept moving with no destination except away. Then she realized she was being followed. For 6 hours, Lola sensed eyes among the trees. Footsteps stopped whenever she stopped. Branches moved without wind. Valeriana noticed it too. Rogues. At sunset on Lola's 3rd day of freedom, they finally emerged. Lola was crouched beside a creek, drinking from cupped hands, when a massive gray wolf stepped into the clearing. Mange had eaten patches from his fur. One ear was completely missing. His remaining ear was torn. His yellow eyes were bloodshot. Saliva dripped from his mouth while he stared at Lola with unmistakable hunger. Valeriana. Lola's thought was urgent. I need you. Not yet, Valeriana replied calmly. Let's find out how many there are. More wolves appeared. A brown female covered in scars, one back leg twisted. A black male missing his right eye. A small russet wolf so thin that every rib showed. Others followed. When the movement stopped, 12 rogues surrounded Lola. They looked nothing like Silvercrest's healthy, disciplined wolves. These were survivors worn down by hunger and isolation. The gray wolf advanced. He remained in wolf form. Many rogues eventually lost the control required to shift between forms. He growled. Lola rose slowly. Water dripped from her fingers. I don't want trouble. The wolves moved closer. I'm only passing through. The gray wolf snarled again. The circle tightened. They didn't know what Lola was. To them, she looked like a young human woman wandering alone. Vulnerable. Unprotected. Food. Now? Lola asked. Now. This shift was different. Instead of resisting the transformation, Lola surrendered to it. Her bones rearranged almost smoothly. Her body expanded. Golden-tipped white fur raced over her skin. 3 seconds. That was all it took. One moment a young woman stood beside the creek. The next, the golden luna towered above 12 stunned rogues. The gray wolf froze in the middle of his lunge. His paws skidded across the dirt. Every other wolf stopped. Lola lowered her massive head. She growled. The sound wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It resonated through bone and instinct. Something ancient in every rogue understood immediately. This was not prey. This was something above them on the food chain. The gray wolf's aggression disappeared. His ears flattened. His tail tucked between his legs. He lowered himself slowly onto his belly. Then the other rogues followed. One after another. They exposed their throats in submission. All except the thin, russet wolf. He remained standing. Not because he was challenging Lola. He was trembling so badly that his legs barely held him. Tears ran from his eyes. Lola studied him. Something about him felt different. With Valeriana's senses, she touched his mind. What Lola found frightened her. His consciousness was fractured, breaking apart. He was close to the feral drift, the madness that consumed wolves who remained disconnected from pack bonds for too long. His body wasn't dying. His mind was. His own wolf was slowly swallowing what remained of his human consciousness. He's young, Valeriana said sadly. Barely 18. Lola looked at him. Can we help him? We can try. Lola moved closer. The russet wolf flinched. He didn't run. Up close, intelligence still flickered inside his eyes. The human part of him was fighting desperately to survive. Without consciously deciding what to do, Lola followed instinct. She pressed her enormous forehead gently against his. Golden light flowed between them. The russet wolf gasped. Through the contact, Lola felt Valeriana's power enter his broken mind. It wrapped around the fractured pieces of his consciousness and held them together. The advancing madness recoiled. When Lola pulled away, the russet wolf collapsed, unconscious, but breathing steadily. His trembling had stopped. Lola looked at the 11 other rogues lying around her. A strange network had begun forming in her mind. She could feel them, their exhaustion, pain, fear. The constant battle against insanity. They're all suffering. Yes, Valeriana answered. Being separated from a pack mind is slowly destroying them. Lola's heart tightened. Wolves aren't meant to live alone. Without an alpha's anchor and pack bonds to stabilize their minds, they eventually lose themselves. So that's why rogues become dangerous. Lola looked around the clearing. They aren't all evil. No. They're drowning. Valeriana remained silent. Can we help all of them? We can, but it will consume energy, and once we do it, they will become connected to us. Lola studied 12 broken wolves. Most of them probably hadn't chosen this existence. Some might have been exiled for crimes committed after isolation had already begun destroying their minds. Victims and threats at the same time. Do it. Valeriana didn't argue. Golden light spread outward from Lola. It touched every rogue. All 12 gasped. Their eyes rolled backward as Lola's presence entered their minds. It wasn't a traditional pack bond. She wasn't controlling them. It felt more like a network. They could feel Lola's stable presence anchoring them, and she could sense their relief, gratitude, disbelief. The feral drift stopped. When the light disappeared, the rogues slowly rose. Their eyes were clearer. Their bodies remained wounded and thin, but the desperation had disappeared. The gray wolf shifted. A middle-aged man appeared in his place. His body was weathered and scarred. Short gray hair covered his head, and the stump where his ear should have been remained visible. He dropped to his knees. This time it wasn't instinctive submission. It was gratitude. My name is Tommy Blake. His voice sounded rough from years of disuse. I was exiled from Northern Ridge 15 years ago because I killed a warrior who attacked my daughter. Tears ran over his scars. I've been alone ever since. Tommy touched his temple. The silence is gone. I can think clearly for the first time in almost a decade. He looked up at Lola. Whatever you are, whoever you are, thank you. The others began shifting. A woman in her 30s with 2 missing fingers. A teenage boy whose body carried terrible burn scars. An elderly man so thin Lola wondered how he'd survived. One after another, they knelt. Some cried openly. What do we call you? Tommy asked. Lola shifted back into human form. Immediately, she became aware of the fact that she was once again a 20-year-old woman dressed in leaves. The rogues didn't seem to care. My name is Lola. She looked at them. And please don't kneel. Tommy hesitated. I didn't save you so that you'd worship me. I helped you because it was the right thing to do. But you're a golden Luna, the woman with the missing fingers whispered. The legends say. I don't care what the legends say. Lola's voice remained firm. I'm not a goddess. I'm someone who spent her entire life being treated like garbage for something I couldn't control. She looked from one face to another. I refuse to do that to anyone else. The rogue stared as though she'd spoken in another language. Tommy slowly stood. Then what do you want from us? Nothing. Lola shook her head. You're free. Go wherever you want. I just couldn't leave you the way I found you. Before Tommy could answer, a man's voice drifted from the edge of the clearing. How very noble. Every head turned. A stranger leaned casually against a tree. He hadn't been there moments earlier. Lola should have heard him, smelled him, felt him. But somehow the man had approached without triggering any of her new senses. He was tall enough to match Jordan. Broad shoulders. A powerful build that looked designed for combat rather than display. Long, jet-black hair had been loosely tied behind his head. Scars covered his rugged face. The most noticeable one ran from his left eyebrow toward his jaw, narrowly missing the eye. He wore simple dark leather armor. Functional. Used. A sword hung at his hip, ancient enough to look dangerous before anyone even touched it. His eyes were storm gray, streaked with silver. The moment they met Lola's, Valeriana stirred. Who is he? Lola asked. Trouble. The stranger pushed away from the tree. He approached with the relaxed confidence of a predator that didn't need to prove what it was. The newly stabilized rogues backed away. Easy, he said. I'm not here for them. His eyes stayed on Lola. I'm here for the star that fell into my forest. Tommy swallowed. Lord Calvin, we didn't know she. Lord? Lola interrupted. The scarred man's mouth lifted on one side. They're dramatic. I'm not a lord. He kept walking. I'm just the only thing keeping most of them alive out here. He stopped about 10 feet from Lola. Unlike the others, he didn't kneel. He didn't stare at her in worship. He simply examined her. I'm Calvin Benjamin. His eyes narrowed slightly. And you, Golden Luna, are standing in my territory. Valeriana growled inside Lola. He should be bowing. Lola almost smiled. Why isn't he bowing? Calvin showed no sign that the pressure of her presence affected him. Then the pieces came together. You're the rogue king. Calvin tilted his head. The one the council fears. Guilty. And you're the Wolfless girl from Silvercrest. His gaze moved briefly over her. Although that reputation appears to have been inaccurate. How do you know me? I keep scouts in every pack within 200 miles. Calvin shrugged. I knew about your execution within an hour of it being scheduled. He looked toward the rogues. All of you, return to camp. Tell Juan I'll follow soon. They hesitated and looked at Lola. Go, she said softly. I'll be all right. The 12 disappeared into the trees. Calvin waited until they were gone. Then he looked at Lola again. You smell like rejection. Her shoulders stiffened. Fresh rejection. He gave her a thoughtful look. Let me guess. The Alpha finally realized how badly he'd failed, and you told him to go to hell. Something like that. Good. Calvin's mouth curved. Jordan McBride is an idiot. He began circling Lola slowly, not threatening her, studying her. Rejecting a mate is foolish enough. Trying to execute a Golden Luna is an entirely different level of stupidity. You don't seem impressed by me. Calvin stopped. By your power? Yes. I'm terrified. He said it so casually that Lola almost missed the meaning. You could probably break me in half without trying. His expression remained steady. But fear isn't respect. I don't respect someone simply because they're powerful. Respect has to be earned. Valeriana bristled. He's challenging us. Number. Lola answered inside her mind. I'm tired of dominance games. If he doesn't attack us, we don't attack him. Calvin studied her. Then he nodded almost imperceptibly, as if she'd passed a test neither of them had acknowledged. You're far from home. I don't have a home. Exactly. His gaze dropped to the leaves wrapped around her. You're exhausted. You're dressed like a tree. A faint smile appeared. And you have nowhere else to go. Lola waited. Silvercrest will probably hunt for you, because their Alpha wants to repair his mistake. The Council will want to lock you away and study you. Every ambitious pack will want to claim you as a weapon. So I'm offering you sanctuary. Lola blinked. Why? Calvin gestured toward the direction the 12 rogues had gone. Those wolves you just healed are 12 of my 300. Her eyes widened. Every one of them has struggled with feral drift. Some became so unstable that I had to chain them to stop them from hurting themselves. Something softened briefly in Calvin's gaze. You entered my forest and accomplished in 5 minutes what I've failed to do in 10 years. He looked directly at her. You gave them peace. I didn't do it for you. I know. Calvin stepped closer. That's why I'm asking instead of demanding. Lola could smell cedarwood and dark soil on him. Stay here. His voice lowered. Let me train you. Train me? You have power, more than anyone I've ever seen. He tapped the sword at his hip. But you have no skill. Lola frowned. And when Jordan comes looking for you, and he will, you'll need both. What do you gain? Calvin smiled. A chance. A chance. A chance. At what? If a Golden Luna bonds herself to my people, the feral drift stops for all of them. His eyes sharpened. They stop being damaged rogues fighting to remain sane. Calvin paused. They become an army. Lola stared at him. And with an army, I finally get the chance to do what I came here to do. What is that? Tear down the council's corrupt system. He didn't hesitate. And build something better. Lola almost laughed. It was the most honest manipulation she'd ever heard. So you want me to become your weapon? No. Calvin held out one hand. I want you to become my partner. His palm remained open between them. I don't want to own you. I want to fight beside you. Lola said nothing. The same council that would cage you exiles innocent wolves. The same pack system that tried to kill you, punishes weakness and worships strength. His storm gray eyes blazed. Help me destroy that system. His hand remained extended. Then help me build something that doesn't crush people beneath it. Valeriana stirred. He's dangerous. I know. More dangerous than Jordan. I know that too. Lola looked at Calvin's hand. But he's honest. And he's giving us something nobody else ever did. What? Lola slowly placed her hand in his. A choice. Calvin's fingers closed around hers. Warm, calloused, steady. Welcome to the dark forest. His scarred mouth curved into a dangerous smile. My queen. For the first time since Valeriana had awakened, Lola smiled back. Chapter 4. The Alpha's Descent. Jordan McBride hadn't slept in 3 days. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Lola. Lola kneeling at the execution block. Lola's hazel eyes filled with betrayal. Lola transforming into a creature from legend while he stood helplessly beside her. Lola rejecting him. The Alpha's quarters felt like a tomb. Jordan sat alone in darkness with a half-empty bottle of whiskey on the table beside him. The mate bond was gone. Completely. Even after 3 rejections, some faint connection had always remained. A distant pull. A quiet awareness. Now there was nothing. Only an emptiness in his chest that seemed impossible to fill. Fenris had gone silent. Jordan's wolf, normally aggressive and dominant, had withdrawn so deeply into his mind that Jordan could barely sense him. The shame was too great. They had tried to execute their mate. Their queen. A knock sounded. Jordan flinched. Go away. The door opened anyway. Henry Matthews stepped inside. He was Silvercrest's head warrior and one of Jordan's oldest friends. Henry took one look at him. Unshaven. Disheveled. Drunk. Broken. You need to get up. I told you to leave. The pack is falling apart. Henry walked across the room and threw open the curtains. Afternoon sunlight flooded inside. Jordan recoiled. Half our wolves want to hunt Lola down so they can beg for forgiveness. The other half are terrified she's going to return and slaughter everyone. Henry turned. Your mother is in the dungeon screaming about injustice. Roseanne is nearly catatonic in the healer's ward. His eyes hardened. And you're sitting here drinking yourself to death. Good. Jordan drank again. I deserve it. Henry ripped the bottle from his hand. You're the Alpha. Start acting like one. I'm not fit to be Alpha. Jordan surged to his feet. The room spun from the alcohol, but anger kept him upright. I sentenced an innocent woman to death. He pointed toward his own chest. I rejected my true mate 3 times. His voice grew raw. I let my mother murder my sister and frame somebody else. Jordan stared at Henry. What kind of Alpha does that? A blind one. Henry didn't soften it. A stupid one. Jordan looked away. But you're alive. That means you still have an opportunity to fix what you can. There is no fixing this. Jordan dropped back into the chair. She rejected me. The bond is gone. His voice became hollow. She's gone. Then go after her. Jordan laughed without humor. And say what? He looked at Henry. Sorry I tried to cut your head off. Please take me back. He rubbed both hands over his face. She's a golden Luna. She doesn't need me. Henry remained quiet. She doesn't need anyone. After a moment, Henry pulled over another chair. When we were children, do you remember what Lola did every morning? Jordan frowned. What? She brought you breakfast. Jordan went still. Every morning, starting when we were 8, and continuing until you rejected her at 17. Henry leaned forward. She woke early, helped the Omegas prepare breakfast, then carried a plate to you. Jordan's throat tightened. Even after you started treating her like garbage, she kept doing it. Henry continued. She tutored my younger brother when he was failing mathematics. Jordan closed his eyes. She helped Ruth collect and prepare healing herbs, even though Ruth later testified against her. Henry's voice hardened. She never missed a pack run. She couldn't shift, so she followed everyone on foot. Jordan opened his eyes again. Lola spent 20 years trying to prove she deserved this pack. Henry stood. And you spent 20 years proving this pack didn't deserve her. The words landed harder than any punch. Yes, Jordan, you were blind. You were stupid. You made the worst mistake of your life. Henry walked toward the door. But Lola deserves to hear you admit it directly to her. She deserves a genuine apology. He turned. Not this. His gaze moved around the dark room. Not you sitting here feeling sorry for yourself. Henry put one hand on the doorframe. Your mother's trial begins in 1 hour. The pack expects its alpha to preside. Jordan's face tightened. After that, you're going to the dark forest. Calvin Benjamin will kill me the moment he sees me. Then you'll die apologizing to your mate. Jordan stared at him. Henry shrugged. Still better than dying drunk in this room. Then he left. Jordan remained motionless for a long time. Finally, he stood. His legs carried him toward the bathroom. The man reflected in the mirror looked unfamiliar. Hollow eyes, gaunt cheeks. A broken expression. Across Jordan's bare chest burned 3 red rejection scars. Physical proof that he had rejected his fated mate repeatedly. But something new had appeared beneath them. A 4th mark. Gold. It shimmered as though burning from inside his skin. Jordan touched it. Pain flashed through him. He remembered stories from old books. Stories about what happened when an alpha rejected or harmed a golden Luna. The moon goddess marked him herself. Jordan recognized the ancient word, unworthy. He closed his eyes, then turned on the shower. An hour later, Silvercrest gathered in the central clearing. 300 wolves stood silently around a hastily constructed platform. Jordan wore his ceremonial alpha robes. His face was clean, his posture straight. From the outside, he looked like an alpha again. Inside, he felt empty. Luna Miriam McBride knelt in silver chains at the center of the platform. Jordan almost didn't recognize his mother. She seemed smaller, older. Her silver hair hung tangled around her face. The eyes that had once controlled Silvercrest with confidence now looked wild. This is a farce, Miriam hissed. I am Luna of this pack. You cannot put me on trial. You murdered Cassidy. Jordan's voice carried no emotion. You framed an innocent woman for the crime. Miriam's lips tightened. You poisoned Lola for 20 years to suppress her wolf. The crowd remained silent. You conspired with Roseanne to destroy the mate the moon goddess chose for me. Jordan looked down at her. You're not my Luna. His voice became colder. You're not my mother. He paused. You're a murderer. Miriam laughed. It sounded brittle. Almost manic. I did all of it for you. Jordan's jaw tightened. Don't you understand? A golden Luna would have destroyed everything. Miriam pulled against the chains. She would have taken your authority, your power, your pack. Her eyes shone with desperation. I protected you. From what? Jordan's roar shook the platform. From my own mate. Miriam flinched. From happiness. He stepped toward her. From the only person who loved me, even while I treated her like a bastard. Jordan turned to the pack. My mother stands accused of murder, conspiracy, and crimes against the moon goddess. He raised his voice. The evidence is undeniable. Her confession was witnessed and recorded. Jordan looked across the gathered wolves. How do you judge her? The response came immediately. Guilty. 300 voices joined. Guilty. Miriam went white. Jordan. Guilty. Please. She looked at him. I'm your mother. Jordan's face didn't move. The punishment for regicide is death. Miriam stopped breathing. But I won't kill you. Hope briefly entered her eyes. Jordan continued. That would be mercy. He looked toward Henry. Strip her title. Miriam's eyes widened. Remove her wolf. No. And exile her into the human world. Miriam screamed. No! Jordan, please! Anything except that. Henry and 2 warriors approached. Kill me! She fought against them. Jordan, please! Kill me instead. Jordan turned his back. Henry dragged Miriam toward Ruth, who waited with a ceremonial dagger. The ritual was brutal. Jordan couldn't watch. Whatever Miriam had done, she was still the woman who had raised him. Her screams were punishment enough. Eventually they stopped. Henry approached. It's finished. Jordan stared forward. She's human now. We'll take her to the border and release her. Good. His voice was numb. And Roseanne? She still hasn't spoken. The healers think the sudden loss of her wolf put her into shock. Henry hesitated. What do you want done with her? Exile her too. Jordan didn't need time to decide. She can follow my mother into the human world. Henry nodded. And you? Jordan drew a slow breath. Gather a scouting party. 5 of our strongest warriors. He looked toward the distant forest. We leave at dawn. Calvin Benjamin commands 300 rogues. Henry's expression became serious. 5 warriors won't matter if he decides to kill us. I'm not going there to fight. Jordan touched the golden mark on his chest. I'm going to kneel at Calvin's gate and ask Lola for permission to speak. Henry studied him. If she sees me, I apologize. Jordan swallowed. If she refuses, he shrugged. I accept whatever happens. You know she could kill you. I know. And you're still going. Jordan's voice cracked. I owe her that. He looked at Henry. I owe her everything. That night, Jordan entered Lola's old room. Calling it a room was generous. It was a storage closet converted into sleeping space. There was a narrow cot with a thin blanket. One shelf held several worn books. A cracked mirror hung from the wall. This was where Lola had lived for 20 years. His mate had slept here while he lived in the Alpha's quarters. Jordan sat on the cot. The weak frame creaked beneath his weight. Then he noticed a journal on the shelf. Cheap paper. String binding. Jordan knew he shouldn't read it. He opened it anyway. The earliest entries were from when Lola was 13. Jordan read. Today Jordan smiled at me during training. He didn't say anything, but the smile was enough. Maybe when we're older, he'll accept the mate bond. Maybe he'll love me. Jordan's hands started shaking. He turned several pages. Jordan rejected me today. He said I was weak. He said the bond was a mistake. It hurt so badly that I couldn't breathe. But I know he didn't mean it. He's under so much pressure to become alpha. I need to be patient. Jordan forced himself to continue. He rejected me again. This time he did it in front of everyone. Luna Miriam told me I should leave Silvercrest. She said I'm an embarrassment to Jordan. But I can't leave. He's my mate. The moon goddess chose us. I only need to prove that I'm worthy. Another entry. I don't think Jordan will ever love me. I've accepted it. But maybe I can still help him. Maybe I can still be useful to Silvercrest. Even without a wolf, I can contribute. That has to be enough. It has to mean something. Jordan's vision blurred. The final entry had been written one day before Lola's execution. Tomorrow they're going to kill me. I'm innocent, but nobody believes me. Jordan won't even look at me anymore. I'm tired. I've spent my whole life trying to be enough. And I was never enough. If there's another life after this, I hope I'm born with a wolf. I hope I'm born strong. I hope I'm born worthy of love. Jordan gently closed the journal. Then he covered his face with both hands and wept. He cried for the little girl who had brought him breakfast every morning, for the teenager who continued loving him after he humiliated her, for the woman who walked toward death believing she had never been worthy of love. Jordan cried until his throat burned, until his eyes hurt. Then he carefully returned the journal to the shelf. At dawn, he would travel to the dark forest. He would kneel at Calvin Benjamin's gate, and he would ask the golden Luna for forgiveness he knew he had no right to receive. Chapter 5. Queen of the Forsaken. 3 weeks inside the dark forest changed Lola more than she could have imagined. Calvin's rogue settlement was nothing like the lawless wasteland she'd expected. It was rough, crude in places, but organized. Cabins built from salvaged timber stood among the trees. A large central fire served as both kitchen and gathering place. Children played beneath the watch of Omega caretakers. Warriors trained in a cleared section of ground. Their methods were efficient and brutal. It was a pack in everything but name. The council simply refused to recognize it. Calvin's home had been built partly into a cliff overlooking the valley. It was larger than most of the cabins, but only slightly. Practical rather than luxurious. On Lola's first night, Calvin had insisted she sleep in his bed while he took the floor. She argued. Calvin ended the argument by lying on the floor and closing his eyes while Lola was still speaking. 3 weeks later, they had developed a routine. Lola woke before dawn. Valeriana required little sleep. The golden Luna was always alert, always watching. Lola learned meditation techniques that allowed human and wolf to share the same mind peacefully, instead of fighting for control. Then came training. Calvin showed no mercy. Again, Lola pushed herself from the dirt for the 15th time that morning. A group of rogues watched from the edge of the training yard. Lola wore leather trousers and a wrapped chest binding Calvin had found for her. Across from her stood Thomas Osborne, 7 feet of solid muscle and scars. Lola wiped blood from her split lip. I'm trying. Trying isn't enough. Calvin leaned against a tree with his arms crossed. You have the most powerful wolf alive inside you. Lola glared. But in human form, you fight like somebody who's never been in a real battle. I know how to fight. Silvercrest trained me. No. Calvin cut her off. Silvercrest trained you to lose. Thomas made a low sound of agreement. He was mute. Damage to his vocal cords from whatever had caused his exile prevented him from speaking. Calvin continued. They placed you with Omegas and taught you basic self-defense. That's survival. He looked directly at Lola. Combat is different. Lola straightened. Combat means ending the threat. Calvin pointed toward Thomas. You don't fight merely to defend yourself. You fight to win. He gestured. Again. Lola squared her stance. And stop pulling your attacks. Thomas can handle it. Her entire body ached. She'd been training for 6 hours. Valeriana's healing reduced recovery time, but Lola still felt every bruise, every scrape, every impact. Yet she understood Calvin's purpose. Power without technique was nothing more than uncontrolled force. Valeriana could destroy armies in wolf form, but Lola needed to survive when she looked human too. Thomas attacked first. His fist drove toward her face. Lola didn't block. She slipped sideways. Thomas's momentum carried him past her. Lola drove her elbow into his kidney. Thomas grunted. It was the first sound of real pain she'd managed to get from him. Better, Calvin called. Then his expression hardened. But you hesitated. His throat was open. Why did you strike his kidney? I didn't want to seriously hurt him. He's trying to kill you. It's training. Lola breathed hard. He'll stop before doing permanent damage. Exactly. Calvin stepped closer. Your real enemies won't. Thomas came again. Faster. Lola ducked. Her foot hooked behind his knee. She pulled. The giant warrior crashed to the ground. Lola moved before consciously thinking. She landed on him with one hand against his throat. Thomas slapped the dirt twice. Yield. The watching rogues erupted into applause and howls. Calvin smiled. Now you're learning. He offered Lola his hand. She took it. Calvin pulled her upright. His grip was warm and steady. I'm learning you're a sadist, Lola muttered. That too. He didn't immediately release her. But you're stronger. Their eyes met. 3 weeks ago, Thomas would have put you on the ground in seconds. 3 weeks ago, I'd never thrown a serious punch. And now you're dangerous. Calvin's storm gray eyes remained on hers. In another month you'll be deadly. Heat curled unexpectedly inside Lola's stomach. She became acutely aware of how close they were, of the opening at Calvin's collar, of the scars visible on his chest, of the scent of leather and cedarwood. Valeriana purred. We're in trouble. Shut up. Lola pulled her hand away. Calvin seemed unaware of her internal panic. Enough for today. He looked at Thomas. Good work. Then at Lola. Rest for a few hours. After that we'll train your command voice. My what? Your alpha command. Calvin folded his arms again. You used it during your first transformation, but you haven't accessed it since. Lola remembered. 300 wolves collapsing. Jordan in the mud. A Golden Luna's command isn't the same as an ordinary alpha's. It's absolute. Calvin's expression became serious. If you don't learn control, you'll either exhaust yourself or accidentally dominate somebody you never intended to. Lola nodded. The memory of that power still frightened her. It had felt intoxicating and terrifying at the same time. Go clean up. Calvin gestured north. There's a hot spring about half a mile away. Juan will take you. Juan Crowley was Calvin's second in command. Burn scars covered half his body, yet he remained one of the most cheerful wolves Lola had met. He guided her through the forest. The spring lay hidden inside a grove of ancient pines. Steam drifted above the water. Juan tactfully disappeared once Lola reached it. She sank into the heat and groaned. Her sore muscles relaxed. Lola floated on her back and stared into the trees. 3 weeks. Only 3 weeks. Yet the dark forest already felt more like home than Silvercrest ever had. The rogues didn't worship her. They didn't treat her as some untouchable goddess. They treated her like Lola. They asked what she thought. They laughed at her jokes. On formal occasions, some bowed, but the gesture felt respectful rather than fearful. Then there was Calvin. Complicated Calvin. He pushed her mercilessly in training. He refused to accept anything less than her best. But at night he sat beside the fire and taught her about rogue history and supernatural politics. He was brutally honest. Sometimes irritatingly honest. But he'd never lied to her. He didn't worship Valeriana. He challenged her. And somehow that made Lola want to spend even more time with him. You're falling for him. Lola nearly sank beneath the water. I am not. Your heartbeat speeds up whenever he comes close. Valeriana sounded amused. Your scent changes. Stop. You stare at his hands while he explains combat. I do not. Lola paused. Do I? Constantly. That's humiliating. She ducked beneath the water. When Lola surfaced, someone stood nearby. Calvin. His back was turned toward her. A bundle of clothes rested in his arms. Sorry. He kept his gaze away. I didn't mean to interrupt. Juan said you'd been gone a while, so I brought something for you to wear. Lola sank lower in the water. Thanks. She pointed, even though he couldn't see. Leave it on the rock. Calvin placed the clothes there, but he didn't leave. Instead, he sat on a boulder near the edge, with his back still toward Lola. We need to talk about what happens next. Lola's relaxation vanished. What does that mean? You've been here 3 weeks. My people are stabilizing. Not one rogue has shown signs of feral drift since you arrived. Calvin rested his elbows on his knees. You're learning to fight. He paused. But you can't hide forever. Something tightened in Lola's stomach. Jordan McBride is coming. She stopped breathing. What? My scouts spotted Silvercrest warriors near the border 2 days ago. Calvin's tone was carefully neutral. Small group. 5 warriors. Then quieter. Jordan is leading them. Where is he? At our gate. Lola stared at Calvin's back. He's been there for 48 hours. What do you mean? Kneeling. Lola's breath caught. No weapons. No food. No water. No shelter. Calvin looked toward the trees. He's been kneeling in the mud for 2 days waiting for you to grant him an audience. Valeriana stirred. He's suffering. There was almost sadness in the wolf's voice. The bond is gone, but guilt is destroying him. I don't want to see him. Lola heard the uncertainty in her own voice. Calvin did too. It's your decision. He didn't push. I can order him away. I can kill him if that's what you want, although starting a war with Silvercrest would be inconvenient. Despite herself, Lola almost smiled. Or, Calvin continued, you can face him. The humor disappeared. Let him say whatever he came to say, then decide what you want. What do you think I should do? Calvin remained silent for several seconds. I think closure matters. Lola waited. I think you loved somebody for 20 years who hurt you repeatedly. His voice hardened. And I think you deserve the satisfaction of hearing him grovel. Then Calvin stopped. What? I think. Another pause. I think I'm biased. Lola frowned. Why? Because the idea of you returning to him makes me want to tear something apart. Lola's heart stumbled. Calvin. Don't. He stood abruptly. You already have enough to process. Don't deal with that too. Calvin started walking away, then stopped. For whatever it's worth, he remained facing the forest. You're not the wolfless girl anymore. Lola said nothing. You owe Jordan nothing. Calvin finally glanced over one shoulder. If you see him, make your decision based on what you want. His eyes held hers. Not what Jordan wants. Another beat. Not what you think you're supposed to want. Then he disappeared among the trees. Lola remained in the spring for a long time. Jordan was here, kneeling at her gate. The alpha who had rejected her 3 times was begging for permission to speak. 3 weeks earlier, Lola would have given anything for that. Now she didn't know what she felt. We should see him, Valeriana said. Lola closed her eyes. Not because we owe him. Then why? Because we deserve to know whether anything remains between us. The golden luna's presence warmed her mind. And if there is nothing, we can walk away knowing we offered him the chance he never offered us. Lola climbed from the spring. She dressed in the clothes Calvin had brought. Dark trousers. A soft tunic fitted perfectly to her body. Even boots. Then she started back toward the settlement. Her decision was made. Jordan could speak. Afterward, Lola would choose for herself. Not as his mate. Not as anyone's Luna. As Lola. Chapter 6. The Alpha Who Fell. The entrance to the dark forest settlement wasn't really a gate. 2 enormous tree trunks carved with rogue symbols stood on either side of the main path. They marked the boundary between the untamed forest and Calvin's territory. Jordan McBride had been kneeling there for 48 hours. Rain had begun during the first night. It soaked through his clothes, turned the earth beneath him into freezing mud, plastered his hair against his face. Jordan never moved toward shelter. He never shifted into Fenris, even though his wolf form could have endured the cold more easily. This was penance. And penance was supposed to hurt. Behind him, 5 Silvercrest warriors waited at a respectful distance. Henry Matthews was among them. The others included Christopher Dyer, a young warrior who kept staring anxiously toward his alpha. He's going to die if he stays there much longer. Henry said nothing. He watched Jordan's unmoving figure. Dozens of rogues watched from the other side. Some were curious, others openly hostile. A few almost seemed to pity him. On the third morning, weak sunlight finally broke through the clouds. The rogues suddenly parted. Lola walked toward the gate. Jordan didn't notice immediately. His head was bowed, eyes closed. His entire body trembled from hunger, exhaustion, and cold. He was using every scrap of alpha will to remain upright. Then he sensed something. Not the mate bond. That was gone. But an echo. The memory of connection. Jordan opened his eyes. Lola stood 10 feet away. Calvin was on one side, Juan on the other. Lola wore fitted dark leather armor. Her hair had been braided in a warrior's style. She looked healthy. Strong. Dangerous. Nothing about her resembled the broken girl Jordan had dragged toward an execution block. Behind her human form, Jordan could feel Valeriana. The golden Luna's presence radiated like furnace heat. Even restrained, her power pressed against his body. Every instinct demanded that he flatten himself completely before her. Jordan resisted only because he'd promised not to move until Lola acknowledged him. She studied him. "You've been kneeling for 2 days." "Yes." His voice was almost gone. "Why?" "Because I needed to speak with you." Jordan swallowed. "And I have no right to demand your time." He lowered his eyes. "So I waited until you decided whether I was worth hearing." Calvin made a sound that resembled a scoff. Very poetic. Jordan's jaw tightened. Calvin stepped forward. 3 weeks ago, you were preparing to cut her head off. Now you're the humble supplicant? Jordan ignored him. His eyes stayed on Lola. "I'm not here to fight." "Then why are you here?" "To apologize." Lola's expression didn't change. "Apologize?" Her voice became flat. "You believe an apology fixes what happened?" "No." Jordan lowered his gaze. "Nothing fixes it." He drew a slow breath. "But you deserve to hear the apology anyway." Lola remained silent for a long moment. Then she looked at Calvin and Juan. "Leave us." Calvin frowned. "Lola, I'll be fine." Her tone left no room for debate. "If he tries anything, you'll hear me screaming all the way from here to the Capitol." Calvin clearly wanted to argue. Eventually, he nodded. He and Juan moved back through the gate, though not far. Both remained close enough to intervene. Lola approached Jordan. She stopped beyond easy reach. "Stand." Jordan tried. After 48 hours in the same position, his legs refused to cooperate. He managed to rise halfway. His knees collapsed. Lola caught him. The contact stopped both of them. Her hands closed around his arms. For one instant, electricity passed through what remained of their history. Jordan saw the changes up close. Training scars marked Lola's hands. Her eyes remained hazel in human form, but tiny golden flecks now lived inside them. Her scent was different. Pine, rain. Something ancient. Power. "When did you last eat?" Lola's voice was carefully neutral. Jordan tried to remember. "Before I left Silvercrest." "When was that?" 3 days ago." He hesitated. "Maybe 4. Lola exhaled. "You're an idiot." But she helped him toward a fallen log. Jordan sat. Lola remained standing. That distance between them stayed deliberate. "Talk." Jordan looked up. "You have 5 minutes." 5 minutes. How did someone fit 20 years of mistakes into 5 minutes? "I was wrong." Lola waited. "About everything." Jordan forced himself to continue. "About you. About our bond. About what strength is supposed to mean." He looked into her eyes. "My mother poisoned you for 20 years and suppressed your wolf." Lola didn't react. "She murdered Cassidy after my sister discovered what she'd done. Then she and Roseanne framed you because they were terrified of what you might become." "I know." Lola's tone remained cold. Calvin's scouts are very thorough. Jordan nodded. I didn't know. Lola's eyes hardened. That isn't an excuse. I know. Jordan's throat tightened. It's an explanation, not an excuse. He looked down at his muddy hands. I should have questioned the evidence. I should have investigated. I should have listened when you tried to tell me. His voice cracked. I cared so much about proving that I was a strong alpha that I became a blind one. You rejected me 3 times. I know. You called our mate bond a mistake. I know. You watched while they chained me. Jordan shut his eyes. You stood there when they dragged me to that execution block. His breathing became uneven. You listened while the pack screamed for my death. Lola's fists tightened. Then she delivered the words he had been dreading. You gave the order, Jordan. He opened his eyes. The axe fell because you allowed it. Tears spilled down Jordan's face. You tried to kill me. I know. Lola stared at him. I know. Jordan's voice broke completely. And I will carry that guilt until I die. His fingers touched the golden scar beneath his clothes. I rejected the greatest gift the moon goddess ever gave me. He looked at her. I nearly destroyed something precious because I was too arrogant to understand its value. Jordan exposed part of the mark. I'm branded. Lola's eyes flicked toward it. Unworthy. His mouth twisted. And I deserve the word. For the briefest moment, something softened in Lola's expression. Why are you here? Jordan waited. What do you actually want from me? Nothing. The answer came immediately. Lola looked surprised. I'm not asking you to take me back. Jordan shook his head. The bond is gone. I understand that it can't simply be repaired. His hands trembled. I only needed you to know that I'm sorry. He met her eyes. That I was wrong. His voice softened. And that you were always worthy. Jordan swallowed. I was the one who wasn't. That's all? Lola looked genuinely confused. You spent 2 days kneeling in the rain just to tell me you're sorry? You deserved a real apology. Jordan wiped his eyes. Not one spoken to Henry while I drank myself unconscious. He almost laughed bitterly. You deserved to hear it directly from me. Then he reached carefully toward his jacket. Calvin and Juan immediately tensed in the distance. Jordan moved slowly. I also brought something. He pulled out a small wooden box. A peace offering. Lola looked at it suspiciously. What is it? Evidence. He offered the box. Everything we discovered after you left. Lola took it. My mother's journals explaining the suppression spells. Jordan continued. Receipts from the supplier who sold her wolfsbane. Lola opened the lid. Blood analysis confirming what happened to Cassidy. Jordan's voice grew quieter. I've already carried out sentences against my mother and Roseanne. Lola looked up. They've both been stripped of their wolves and exiled into the human world. Jordan nodded toward the documents. But if you want additional charges brought before the council, everything you need is there. Lola began examining the box. Documents. Sealed vials. Then something else. A dried flower pressed carefully between sheets of paper. She lifted it. What's this? Jordan looked at the flower. His voice softened. A moonflower. Lola went still. You gave it to me when we were 10. He looked away. You told me it reminded you of the moon goddess. Memory crossed Lola's face. You said you hoped it would bring me good luck during my alpha trials. Jordan swallowed. I kept it. Why? I don't know. He shook his head. Even when I treated you badly, even after I rejected you. Jordan looked at her again. I could never throw it away. Lola stared at the dried moonflower. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then she closed the box. Your 5 minutes are finished. Jordan nodded. He pushed himself upright. His legs shook, but they held. Thank you for listening. He turned. I'll leave. Wait. Jordan stopped. Lola remained silent. Her jaw tightened as though she were fighting herself. I don't forgive you. Jordan nodded without turning. I don't expect you to. But. He looked back. I don't hate you either. Something in Jordan's face broke. You were manipulated. Lola continued carefully. You were lied to. She looked directly at him. You made horrible choices because you accepted false information without questioning it. Jordan didn't defend himself. You're not evil. Lola's voice softened. You're broken. Something inside Jordan finally gave way. Not the mate bond. That had already disappeared. Maybe the final piece of his pride. I know. Lola looked toward the dark forest. The council will come for me sooner or later. Jordan listened. They're afraid of Valeriana. When they move against me, they may use Silvercrest to force my surrender. I won't let them. I'm not asking you to fight for me. Lola interrupted. I'm asking you to protect your pack. Jordan frowned. Keep your people safe. She stepped closer. Don't let the council turn them into pawns. Jordan nodded. You have my word. Lola studied him. And Jordan? Yes. Find someone who actually deserves you. Jordan stared at her. Someone who can love you without carrying everything we did to each other. His voice became hoarse. There isn't anyone else. Lola's expression tightened. The moon goddess doesn't give second mates. Then be alone. Jordan blinked. It's not the worst thing that can happen. A faint, sad smile appeared on her lips. I was alone for 20 years. She paused. I survived. Jordan wanted to tell her that loneliness had nearly destroyed her, that she'd spent her life begging a pack for love, but he no longer had the right. So he nodded. I'll protect Silvercrest. Good. Lola turned away. After several steps, she stopped. Jordan. He looked up. Thank you for apologizing. Her voice was quiet. It doesn't mean forgiveness. Jordan waited. But it means something. Then she walked back through the gate. Calvin immediately moved to her side. Before following, the Rogue King gave Jordan a long, measuring look. Then both disappeared into the settlement. Jordan remained where he was. He felt lighter and heavier. He had finally said what he needed to say. He'd admitted the truth. He'd accepted that Lola was lost to him. It should have felt like closure. Instead, it felt like a final door closing on the best thing he'd ever been offered. Henry came to stand beside him. How do you feel? Jordan watched Lola until she disappeared among the trees. Like I'm finally growing up. His voice was quiet. About 20 years too late. Henry nodded. What happens now? Now we go home. Jordan straightened his shoulders. Alpha posture returned. And I finally do what I should have done from the beginning. He looked toward his warriors. I protect my pack. As they walked away, Jordan didn't turn back. Looking behind him couldn't change what he'd done. The girl he had destroyed no longer existed. In her place stood a queen. And Jordan would spend the rest of his life trying to become somebody worthy of what she'd once offered him, even if he had to do it from far away. Chapter 7. The Council's Ultimatum. The summons arrived 2 weeks after Jordan left. No ordinary messenger delivered it. Instead, a polished black car climbed the rough trail leading into the dark forest, absurdly elegant beside the ancient trees and crude cabins. Lola was sparring with Juan when it appeared. Her abilities had improved dramatically. She could now win matches she barely survived weeks earlier. Valeriana sharpened Lola's reflexes. Calvin's merciless lessons improved everything else. The vehicle stopped. Training ended immediately. Calvin emerged from his cabin. His expression told Lola that he'd expected this. They all had. The question had never been whether the council would react to the return of a golden Luna. Only when. The car door opened. Even experienced rogues stepped backward. A tall, unnaturally thin figure emerged. His skin was almost colorless. Long white blonde hair hung past his shoulders, but his eyes were what disturbed Lola most. Solid silver, no visible pupils. They reflected the world around him like mirrors. High elf, Calvin muttered as he moved beside her. Ancient keeper of the supernatural accords. His hand shifted toward his sword. They don't send these unless something serious is happening. The elf crossed the training yard with inhuman grace. When he spoke, his voice was beautiful, in a way Lola found unsettling. I bring a summons from the High Council of Supernatural Affairs. He produced a sealed letter. Blue light glowed faintly through the wax. The entity known as Valeriana and her vessel, Lola Richardson, are ordered to appear before the council in 3 days. Lola's expression hardened. Failure to comply will result in immediate sanctions against this settlement, and every individual living here. Calvin's hand closed around his sword. You're threatening my people? The elf looked at him without emotion. I deliver a message. His mirrored eyes returned to Lola. The council's patience is limited, Rogue King. He tilted his head. The reappearance of a golden luna disrupts the established balance of power. Lola felt Valeriana growl. She must be evaluated. The elf continued. Her intentions must be assessed. Then the final words. And her placement determined. Placement? Lola stepped forward. I'm not an object you assign to somebody. That remains to be determined. The elf held out the summons. The hearing takes place in 3 days at the Citadel. He looked across the settlement. Come willingly, or force will be employed. Calvin's eyes narrowed. The elf continued. You command 300 rogues. No emotion entered his voice. The council commands 50,000 wolves across 20 territories. He dropped the letter. Choose carefully. Then he returned to the car and left. Silence suffocated the training yard. Calvin picked up the summons and broke its seal. The farther he read, the darker his face became. It's worse than I expected. Lola approached. How bad? They aren't merely evaluating you. Calvin scanned the paper. They've already prepared options. What options? He read them. Option 1. Return to Silvercrest and complete your mate bond with Jordan McBride under council supervision. Lola's jaw tightened. Option 2. Choose an approved mate from 5 alpha bloodlines selected by the council. Valeriana snarled. And option 3? Calvin stopped. Read it. Submit to containment inside the Citadel for study and controlled breeding. The training yard exploded. They want to breed her like an animal? Barbarians. We should kill them. Enough. Calvin's alpha command silenced every rogue. Then he looked at Lola. This is exactly what I warned you about. His voice was low. The council fears power it can't control. He held up the letter. They'll talk about balance, tradition, stability. Calvin's mouth twisted. But they want to put a collar around your neck. Valeriana surged forward. Gold flashed through Lola's eyes. They can try. They will. Calvin didn't underestimate them. And if we handle this badly, they'll destroy everyone here to make an example. Juan stepped closer. 300 against 50,000. He shook his head. We might last an hour. So what do we do? Juan looked at Calvin. We can't hand Lola over. Calvin remained silent. Then something changed in his expression. We give them what they want. Lola stared at him. Excuse me? Sort of. Calvin's hand rested against his sword hilt. The council wants you attached to a bloodline. His eyes stayed on Lola. Somebody they believe can control you. Understanding hit her. So we give you a mate. Lola's heart kicked. Not one of theirs. A political bond. Exactly. Calvin stepped nearer. Not a true mate bond. Those can't be manufactured. His tone remained deliberately neutral. But supernatural law recognizes formal alliance bonds. Lola understood. You claim me as your chosen partner. And you claim me. Calvin nodded. The bond becomes legally recognized. Lola stared at him. You'd do that? Yes. You'd bind yourself politically to me? Yes. That makes you an even bigger target. Calvin's scarred face split into his frightening smile. I've been a target most of my life. His eyes glinted. And I'm tired of the council deciding who deserves power. He stepped closer. If becoming the Golden Luna's political partner helps me tear their system apart, consider that an additional benefit. This isn't funny. I know. They'll try to kill you. Let them. His smile disappeared. But I need one answer first. Lola waited. Can you tolerate being bound to me? Calvin's voice dropped. Politically, even temporarily. His eyes held hers. Because once we perform this ritual, breaking it carries serious consequences. Lola looked at him carefully. Calvin Benjamin, the rogue king. The man who gave her shelter when she had nothing. The man who taught her to fight. Who spoke to Lola instead of worshipping Valeriana. Who sat by the fire and listened when nightmares made sleep impossible. He's asking whether we trust him, Valeriana said softly. Lola's heartbeat slowed. Not whether we love him. Do we? Yes. Lola looked into Calvin's eyes. I can handle it. His shoulders relaxed slightly. The question is whether you can. Calvin raised an eyebrow. I'm not exactly simple. Lola gestured toward herself. I have an enormous golden wolf in my head who comments on everything. Valeriana huffed. I'm still learning to fight. Calvin listened. I wake up screaming because I dream about the execution. Lola hesitated. And Calvin gently placed one finger against her lips. Lola went silent. You're the strongest person I've ever known. Her pulse jumped. Your wolf is magnificent. Valeriana practically preened. You learn faster than any fighter I've trained. Calvin lowered his hand. And anyone who survived what you survived would have nightmares. His voice softened. I'm not asking for perfection, Lola. He looked at her. I'm asking you to let me stand beside you while you burn the world down. Warmth spread through her chest. That may be the most romantic thing anyone has ever said to me. Calvin smiled. I aim to please. There's one problem. Juan's voice made both of them jump. They'd forgotten the entire training yard was watching. A political bonding requires consent from both parties' pack alphas. Juan looked at Lola. Lola no longer has one. Then at Calvin. And Calvin. I'm an exile, Calvin finished. No pack alpha exists to negotiate on my behalf. Actually, a familiar voice came from the entrance. That's not entirely true. Everyone turned. Jordan McBride stood at the edge of the settlement. Henry and 3 Silvercrest warriors stood behind him. Jordan looked considerably better than he had 2 weeks earlier. Clean, fed, rested. But his posture had changed. Less arrogance, more caution. Lola's body tightened. What are you doing here? Jordan raised both hands to show they were empty. I came to warn you. Calvin moved slightly in front of Lola. The council contacted Silvercrest yesterday. Jordan ignored Calvin's hostility. They want me to testify during your hearing. Lola frowned. They want me to say you're unstable. Jordan's jaw tightened. Dangerous. He looked ashamed. That you attacked members of my pack without provocation. Calvin's fingers closed around his sword. And you're going to say that? No. Jordan stepped forward alone. I'm going to tell them Lola was the victim of a conspiracy. His eyes found hers. I'm going to tell them my pack wronged her. Jordan continued. And when she had enough power to slaughter every person responsible, she showed restraint. He took a breath. I'm going to tell the truth. Why? Lola didn't trust the change easily. What do you gain? Nothing. Jordan answered instantly. I'm doing it because it's right. Then he looked toward Calvin. But I heard the last part of your discussion. Calvin's eyes narrowed. The political bond. Jordan nodded. You need authorization from a pack alpha. I'm not Silvercrest anymore. No, Jordan agreed, but supernatural law lets the alpha of a person's former pack formally acknowledge the bond. Calvin considered that. It's a technicality, Jordan continued. But it satisfies the requirement. Pain moved briefly across his face. I know you don't trust me, Lola. He looked at her. I know I've done nothing to deserve trust. His voice lowered. But let me do one thing that helps repair what I destroyed. Calvin and Lola exchanged a glance. Valeriana stirred. He's sincere. Lola remained cautious. I can feel it. The wolf's voice became thoughtful. He wants to help, even though it means watching you bind yourself to another male. Yes, that has to hurt, which is why I believe him. Lola looked at Jordan. Fine. Jordan nodded. But if this is a trick, it isn't. He removed a rolled parchment from his jacket. I already had the documents prepared. Calvin took them. You only need your signatures. Jordan indicated the final section. And mine as witness and authorizing alpha. Calvin read every line. His eyebrows rose. This is thorough. I have a very good lawyer. Jordan managed a weak smile. And a strong reason to make sure Lola remains free. For the next hour, they negotiated every detail. The ceremony would happen that evening. The legal bond needed to be complete before the Citadel hearing. Juan would oversee the ritual as Calvin's second. Jordan would witness and authorize it. Every rogue in the settlement could attend. It wasn't fate. It wasn't the mate bond. It wasn't even being called love. It was strategy. Yet Lola watched Jordan and Calvin argue over clauses and protections. The rogue king. The alpha who had rejected her. Two men who had every reason to hate each other were cooperating because Lola's freedom mattered more. Something shifted inside her. Maybe family wasn't always blood. Maybe it wasn't a bond chosen by the moon goddess. Maybe family could be the people who stayed beside you while the rest of the world tried to crush you. At sunset, the settlement gathered in the central clearing. Wildflowers had been woven into an arch. Torches surrounded the clearing. Compared with traditional pack ceremonies, everything was simple, but Lola found it beautiful. Diana Avila, one of the rogue women, had sewn her a plain white dress. Calvin wore his best leather armor. His long black hair was tied back. He made no attempt to hide his scars. Lola and Calvin stood beneath the flowers. Juan faced them. We gather to witness a bond of choice rather than fate. His voice carried through the clearing. A partnership built on respect, trust, and shared purpose. Juan looked at Calvin. Calvin Benjamin, Rogue King, do you claim this woman as your partner? Calvin didn't hesitate. Do you swear to stand beside her in battle, defend her freedom, and honor her choices? I do. Juan turned. Lola Richardson, Golden Luna, do you claim this man as your partner? Her heartbeat thundered. Do you swear to stand beside him in battle, fight for his people, and honor his choices? This was real. I do. Juan nodded. Then by old law and new, by moon, blood, and choice, I recognize this bond. He drew a ceremonial blade. Blood seals the agreement. Calvin held out his palm. Juan made a shallow cut. Lola offered hers next. The blade opened her skin. She barely felt it. Then Lola and Calvin pressed their bleeding palms together. Warm energy rushed between them. Lola gasped. It wasn't the overwhelming force of a fated mate bond. It was gentler. An awareness. A connection deeper than simple touch. For the first time, Lola sensed Calvin's heartbeat almost as clearly as her own. She felt determination, protectiveness, and beneath both, affection. He actually cares about us, Valeriana whispered in surprise. Not our power. Us. They separated their hands. Both cuts had already healed. Identical pale scars marked their palms. It's done, Juan announced. They are bonded. The clearing erupted with howls and cheers. Calvin looked at Lola. This time his smile wasn't frightening. It was real. How does it feel? Strange. She examined her palm. But good. Then she looked at him. Safe. Good. Calvin squeezed her hand. Because tomorrow we go to war with the council. Lola's smile faded. Calvin's eyes became intense. Promise me one thing. What? No matter what happens inside that citadel. He stepped closer. No matter what they threaten. His voice hardened. You don't let them cage you. Valeriana surged forward. You're a queen, Lola. Calvin's storm-gray eyes blazed. Queens don't bow. They make others kneel. Lola felt the golden luna's approval. I promise. Calvin smiled. Then let's show them what happens when somebody tries to collar a golden luna. Around them, rogues danced and celebrated. At the edge of the crowd, Jordan watched with a bittersweet expression. Lola looked toward the moon. Tomorrow, everything changes. Tomorrow, Valeriana agreed. We stop running. Chapter 8. The Assassination and the Awakening. The citadel rose from white cliffs like a monument built for ancient gods. Glass and pale stone twisted upward in impossible shapes. Morning sunlight reflected from its surface in blinding fragments. It was beautiful. Cold. Perfect. Inhuman. Lola stood at the bottom of its enormous steps. Calvin remained beside her. 20 rogue warriors formed an honor guard behind them. The council had demanded that Lola and Calvin come alone. Calvin had ignored that demand. They won't appreciate the escort, Lola murmured. They don't need to. His hand rested comfortably on the hilt of his sword. We aren't here to make friends. Jordan arrived separately, with a Silvercrest delegation. Representatives from 6 other major packs had come too. The citadel was crowded with supernatural beings. Werewolves. Vampires. Different species of shifters. Creatures Lola couldn't identify. Almost everyone stopped when she passed. Word had spread. The Golden Luna was no longer an old legend. She was real, and she had entered the citadel. The main hall was circular and enormous. It could have held thousands. Approximately 500 of the supernatural world's most powerful figures had gathered. At the far end stood a raised platform with 12 seats. The High Council, ancient beings who had controlled supernatural affairs for centuries. Aurelius occupied the central seat. At first glance, he looked human. Then Lola noticed the details. His arms seemed slightly too long. His fingers contained too many joints. His eyes were milky white, blind. Yet Lola felt as though he were staring directly into her soul. Lola Richardson. His voice echoed from every direction. Vessel of Valeriana, the Golden Luna. The hall became silent. You stand accused of harboring a biological weapon in rogue territory. Lola's jaw tightened. Of rejecting your fated mate and destabilizing pack bonds throughout the region. Calvin shifted beside her. And of using unauthorized power to dominate and control other wolves. Aurelius leaned forward. How do you plead? Not guilty. Whispers spread. To every charge. Another council member leaned forward. A sharp-featured woman with hawk-like eyes. You deny destroying pack property? No, Lola answered clearly. You deny rendering wolves unconscious with your aura? No. You deny fleeing lawful jurisdiction? No. The woman's expression became triumphant. Lola continued. I destroyed an execution platform while it was being used to murder me. The room quieted again. I incapacitated wolves because the alternative was killing them. Her eyes sharpened. And I fled, because remaining inside Silvercrest meant dying for a crime I didn't commit. You still claim innocence in Cassidy McBride's murder? I was framed. Lola gestured toward Jordan. Alpha Jordan McBride possesses evidence proving my innocence and identifying those responsible. She looked directly at the council. Perhaps somebody should have investigated that before summoning me here as a criminal. Jordan stepped forward and bowed. With the council's permission, I would like to submit evidence. Aurelius moved one unnatural hand. Proceed. For the next 20 minutes, Jordan presented everything. Miriam's journals. Descriptions of the suppression spells. Records from the Wolfsbane supplier. Blood analysis. Witness statements from Silvercrest wolves who'd observed Miriam and Roseanne conspiring. By the time Jordan finished, even members of the High Council looked uncomfortable. This is troubling, Aurelius admitted. If verified, it indicates Alpha Jordan's pack participated in systematic abuse and the attempted murder of a Golden Luna. Jordan stepped forward. It's true. His voice was firm. I accept responsibility as the Alpha who allowed it. He looked toward Lola, but Lola Richardson was the victim. Jordan's gaze returned to the council, not the criminal. That remains to be determined. The hawk-eyed woman spoke. Even if she is innocent of murder, the larger problem remains. Her gaze settled on Lola. A Golden Luna exists. Valeriana growled. The last time one walked this world, thousands died in war. The council member's voice hardened. We cannot permit this level of power to operate without supervision. So you intend to imprison me? Lola spoke flatly. You can call it balance, regulation, or protection. She stepped forward. But you're afraid of what I represent. We are concerned with stability, Aurelius corrected. The Golden Luna does not belong to any individual pack. His blind eyes faced her. She is a heritage asset. Valeriana surged forward. Lola's eyes flashed gold. I am not an asset. Wolves throughout the chamber began lowering their heads. I'm a person. Lola's power spread. And I will not be treated like property. The temperature seemed to drop. Even experienced alphas whimpered as their necks bent involuntarily. Control yourself, Aurelius sounded commanding, but Lola heard fear beneath it. Calvin stepped closer. His hand rested on her shoulder. The touch traveled through their new bond, grounding, steady. Lola pulled Valeriana back. Then Calvin faced the council. You've forgotten an important legal detail. The room watched him. Lola Richardson is no longer unbonded. Whispers erupted. 2 days ago, she entered a formal political bond with me. He looked toward Jordan. With authorization and witness from Alpha Jordan McBride. The hall exploded. A rogue? Impossible. That bond isn't legitimate. Calvin calmly removed documents. The paperwork is complete. He held them out. Signed. Sealed. Registered with the supernatural registry. Aurelius seized the documents with unnatural speed. His blind eyes somehow moved across the pages. His expression darkened. Calvin smiled. Lola Richardson is legally bonded to me. He looked at the 12 council members. Attempting to force her into any alternative pairing violates your own law. Aurelius's fingers tightened. This arrangement is technically legal. Calvin raised an eyebrow. But highly irregular. Irregular. Calvin nodded. And binding. He moved beside Lola. So unless the High Council intends to invalidate its own legal system, Lola remains in my territory. His voice lowered. Under my protection. The hawk-eyed councilwoman rose. This is unacceptable. Her anger broke through her control. A Golden Luna cannot remain with rogues. The destabilization you're worried about is your problem, Lola interrupted. You want stability? She looked around the room. Stop exiling wolves for minor crimes. A murmur spread. Stop forcing mate bonds for political advantage. More voices. Stop treating power like something that must be controlled by the same families forever. Her eyes glowed. I didn't ask to become a Golden Luna. She let the silence hold. But now that I am one, I'm going to protect people like me. Her gaze swept the council. The rejected, the powerless, the wolves your perfect system crushes beneath it. You dare threaten this council? Lola looked at Aurelius. I'm not threatening you. Her voice became quiet. I'm making a promise. Leave us alone. Valeriana pushed closer. Let the rogues live in peace. Lola's eyes burned. Or discover why Golden Lunas once ended wars. The hall became completely silent. Finally, Aurelius spoke. You are dismissed. Lola waited. All of you. His voice sounded like stone grinding against stone. The council will deliberate. He looked toward the setting sun visible through the high windows. You will receive our decision by sunset. They were escorted to luxurious rooms inside the citadel. The comfort didn't fool Calvin. A beautiful cage is still a cage. He posted rogue guards outside every entrance. Hours passed. Lola stood beside a window. The sun moved slowly across the sky. They'll rule against us. Calvin sat in the corner sharpening his sword. Probably. Lola turned. If everything goes wrong. Calvin looked up. If they attack us, you take the rogues and run. His expression immediately hardened. I can hold them long enough. No. Calvin. I said no. He placed the sword aside and crossed the room. We chose this bond. His eyes fixed on hers. Fate didn't force us. He touched the scar on his palm. We did. Lola's throat tightened. So if you fight, I fight. He stepped closer. If you run, I run. Then that dangerous smile appeared. And if you stand. His hand touched hers. I stand beside you. Before Lola could answer, the door slammed open. Juan staggered inside. Blood ran from a deep cut across his forehead. They're attacking our people. Calvin's entire expression went cold. What? The council sent enforcers into the courtyard. Juan fought for breath. 50 of them. Calvin seized his sword. We only have 20 warriors. Juan shook his head. They aren't arresting anyone. His face twisted. They're killing them. Then we finish this. Calvin looked at Lola. Can you fight? Try stopping me. They ran. The immaculate white corridors were already stained with blood. Bodies lay across the floor. Rogues. Enforcers. They followed the sounds of battle. The courtyard was chaos. Council enforcers wore heavy armor. Their movements were coordinated. Their weapons silver. The rogues had been surrounded and denied escape. Thomas fought like a berserker. 3 enforcers fell around him, but blood poured from wounds all over his body. Other rogues were falling. Enough. Calvin's roar struck the battlefield. His command staggered several enforcers. Their leader turned. A scarred brute with silver bands wrapped around one arm. The rogue king. He smiled. The council sends its regards. 10 enforcers moved toward Calvin. Calvin met them. His sword became a blur. He parried, turned, struck, moved through the attackers with brutal precision. He fought like water, smoke, death. But there were too many. Lola prepared to shift. Valeriana surged forward. Then Calvin's voice entered her mind through their political bond. No. Lola froze. If you transform here, your full power will kill ours too. The courtyard was too confined. Then what do I do? Lola started toward him. A blade burst through Calvin's chest. Time stopped. The enforcer behind him had waited until Calvin was distracted. A silver sword had entered through his back and emerged from his chest. The attacker twisted it. Calvin's sword fell. He dropped to his knees. Blood poured from the wound. No! Lola ran. Everything seemed to slow. She was too far away. The enforcer lifted the blade for another strike. Calvin looked toward Lola. Storm gray eyes met hers. His voice reached her through their bond. I don't regret it. Blood filled his mouth. Any of it. The weapon fell. Something inside Lola broke. Not like glass. Like a dam. Like chains finally snapping, power detonated around her. The shockwave threw every person in the courtyard backward 20 feet. Stone cracked. Windows shattered. Golden light filled the air. Lola didn't transform. She didn't need to. Her eyes became pure gold. Her hair lifted around her as though caught in a storm. Both hands glowed like captured stars. She reached toward Calvin. Golden light flowed into his collapsed body. The wound responded. But healing wasn't enough. Something older awakened. Something forbidden. Valeriana took control. Golden Luna blood is legend. Lola bit deeply into her own wrist. Blood flowed. Then let's create a new legend. She pressed her bleeding wrist against Calvin's mouth. Drink. The command was absolute. Calvin's eyes fluttered open. Instinct took over. He drank. The effect was immediate. The hole through his chest closed, flesh sealed. No scar remained. Then his eyes changed. Silver spread through the storm gray. A permanent mark of Golden Luna power. But something even greater happened between them. The political bond caught fire. What they had created through law and choice transformed. It was still not the fated mate bond the moon goddess had once given Lola and Jordan. This was different. A bond forged through their own choice. Sealed by blood. Strengthened by trust. Born in the terror of losing each other. A true bond. Calvin gasped. Suddenly he could feel Lola completely. Her rage. Her fear. Her power. Her terror at watching him die. He stared at her. What did you do? Lola took his hand. I chose you. His breathing stopped. Completely. She pulled him upright. Forever. A faint smile. No changing your mind now. Calvin laughed breathlessly. Together they faced the remaining enforcers. Golden power surrounded Lola. Silver surrounded Calvin. You want to kill us? Lola's voice carried Valeriana's authority. Try. The head enforcer was bleeding. Terrified. But he still raised his weapon. She's one girl. He shouted toward his soldiers. Attack! Lola lifted one hand. Every enforcer in the courtyard dropped to their knees. Their throats exposed themselves involuntarily. None could resist the Golden Luna's full command. You will return to the council. No one moved. You will tell them the dark forest is under my protection. Her power intensified. You will tell them that any attack on my people is an attack on me. The enforcer trembled. And you will tell them one more thing. Lola smiled. It looked remarkably like Calvin's dangerous grin. If they send assassins again. The courtyard grew silent. I will come back to this citadel. Her eyes burned. And I will burn it to the ground. You can't threaten the council. Lola tilted her head. I'm not threatening them. Her smile remained. I'm promising. The surviving enforcers fled. Only when the last disappeared did Lola turn toward Calvin. Her hands began shaking as the adrenaline faded. Are you okay? I'm alive. He touched his chest. Because of you. There wasn't even a scar. Then Calvin looked at his hands. A faint silver glow surrounded them. What am I now? Lola stepped closer. Mine. Calvin's eyes lifted. If you'll have me. He laughed, then pulled her into a fierce kiss. The girl who had trembled at an execution block was gone. This was a queen claiming the man she'd chosen as her king. When they separated, the surviving rogues cheered. Juan stood nearby, bloodied and bruised but alive. He grinned. Does this mean we finally get to burn down the council? Eventually, Calvin promised. Then he looked toward Lola. But first, we go home. They left the citadel carrying their wounded. Their heads remained high. The Golden Luna would not be caged. And anyone who tried would discover why legends inspired fear. Chapter 9. The Golden Rain. The council's official response arrived 3 days later. It wasn't the war Calvin expected. That made it more dangerous. The decree carried all 12 council seals. The dark forest would be recognized as an autonomous zone, under observation. In other words, the council was leaving them alone. Temporarily. They were still watching. Waiting for Lola or Calvin to make a mistake. Waiting for an excuse. It's a trap. Juan read the decree for the 5th time. They sat inside Calvin's cabin, which everyone had begun calling the war room. A large table filled most of the space. Maps and reports covered it. They're giving us enough freedom to hang ourselves. Probably. Calvin stood beside a window. One hand unconsciously touched the place where the silver sword had entered his chest. The silver light inside his eyes had never faded. If anything, it had become stronger. But they're also giving us time. Lola stood over the map. Red marks represented packs loyal to the council. Blue identified neutral territories. Green marks had begun appearing everywhere. Those were packs secretly contacting the dark forest. Asking whether the rumors were true. Could the Golden Luna really stabilize rogues? Would exiles be accepted? We're getting requests. Lola looked up. 7 different packs have people asking for sanctuary. She read from the reports. Omegas who've been abused. Another page. Wolves exiled for loving somebody they weren't allowed to love. Another. Others punished for questioning an alpha's command. Lola looked toward Calvin. What do we tell them? Yes. Juan turned. Immediately? Immediately. Calvin didn't hesitate. That's the point of everything we're doing. His silver eyes sharpened. We build something better. Juan frowned. We barely have enough resources for 300. He gestured toward the maps. What happens if 3,000 arrive? Another report. Or 10,000? We expand. Calvin turned from the window. We stop hiding among trees like criminals. He approached the table. We build a real kingdom. Lola stared at him. Agriculture. Calvin pointed toward open land on the map. Infrastructure. Another location. Trade. He looked at both of them. Everything the council claims rogues are too damaged to accomplish. That will provoke them. Lola knew it immediately. Good. Calvin put both hands on the table. For 10 years I've been defending. His voice hardened. I rescued rogues individually, kept them stable enough to survive another day. He looked around the rough cabin, but surviving isn't living. A dangerous purpose entered his eyes. It's time to build something worth fighting for. Over the next 3 months, the dark forest changed. Housing came first. The crude cabins were repaired, expanded, and reinforced. Carpenters, stonemasons, builders, craftsmen. Many had been exiled for minor offenses. Now Calvin gave them materials and permission to build. A proper infirmary followed. Its leader surprised Lola, Ruth Conrad. The Silvercrest healer arrived one night with tears on her cheeks and an apology prepared. Jordan had tried to protect her after Miriam's trial, but when Ruth testified honestly about everything she'd witnessed, the council demanded somebody pay. Ruth became the scapegoat. Silvercrest exiled her. I'm sorry. She cried when Lola met her. I knew things didn't make sense. Her voice shook. I should have investigated further. I should have questioned what I was being told. Lola placed one hand on her shoulder. You told the truth when it mattered. Ruth looked up. That required courage. Lola smiled faintly. You're welcome here. Ruth took control of the infirmary with ruthless efficiency. She began training younger wolves in healing methods usually restricted to council-approved practitioners. Then came agriculture. Land was cleared. Crops planted. Hunting parties provided meat. A smokehouse appeared. Then a granary. Then a mill. The rogues stopped merely surviving. They began thriving. Word traveled quickly. Within 3 months, the population grew from 300 to 800. Exiles arrived. Victims of abuse. political refugees. Every newcomer carried another story. A corrupt alpha, a rigged trial, a hierarchy designed to punish anyone who didn't fit. The dark forest accepted them. Growth created new problems. We need structure. Juan raised the issue during a council meeting. They actually had councils now. Representatives from different groups sat around a table and participated in decisions. Everything still depends on you and Calvin. Juan looked toward Lola. If both of you die or get captured, the entire settlement could collapse. He's right, Tommy Blake said. The former rogue now served as head of security. He organized patrols and training. We need succession. Tommy counted on his fingers. Laws. Another. Consequences for breaking those laws. He looked toward Calvin. Something beyond the rogue king's personal judgment. Calvin's expression made his opinion clear. Through their bond, Lola felt his reluctance. Calvin had spent years surviving as a lone authority. Committee decisions irritated him. We have to release control. Lola sent the thought through their bond. This has grown beyond us. I know. His mental voice sounded annoyed. Knowing doesn't mean I enjoy it. You don't need to enjoy it. You only need to do it? Exactly. Calvin sighed aloud. Fine. He pointed toward Juan. Start drafting a legal code. Then toward Tommy. Work with him on enforcement. He turned to Ruth. We also need education. Ruth nodded. Not only healing. Calvin continued. Reading, mathematics, everything the council restricts. He leaned over the table. If we're building a kingdom, ignorance cannot be its foundation. The meeting continued for hours. Plan followed plan. By the time it finished, Lola's head felt full. She walked alone toward the cliff behind Calvin's cabin. Their cabin now. They still slept separately. The bond between them had become extraordinarily strong, but Lola and Calvin had agreed not to force the relationship forward because of it. Whatever happened between them would happen naturally. Quite a view. Lola turned. Jordan approached slowly. His hands remained visible. Empty. He had visited several times after the Citadel incident. Silvercrest brought supplies. Jordan brought intelligence about council activity. He had formally allied his pack with the Dark Forest. The decision cost him political influence. He maintained it anyway. What brings you here? Lola wasn't hostile anymore. Jordan stopped several feet away. I wanted to check on you. His gaze traveled toward the settlement. The council has been too quiet. Lola nodded. It makes me nervous too. They stood without speaking. Months had softened the worst awkwardness between them. What remained wasn't love, not what they'd once had, but something resembling friendship, or at least respect. You're happy here? Jordan wasn't asking. I am. With him. Still not a question. Lola looked at Jordan. The golden unworthy mark had faded slightly on his chest. It would never disappear completely. Calvin? Jordan nodded. Yes. Lola didn't hesitate. With him. Jordan absorbed the answer. Good. The word cost him. That's good. Lola could tell he meant it. He is better for you than I ever was. Jordan. Let me finish. He turned fully toward her. He sees you. Jordan looked toward the village. Not your power. His eyes returned to Lola. Not your wolf. A pause. Not what the golden Luna represents. His voice softened. He sees Lola. Lola's chest tightened. I spent 20 years being the worst mate fate could have given you. Jordan's mouth twisted. I don't get to become jealous now because you found someone who deserves you. He swallowed. But I can be grateful. Lola waited. That you're safe. Jordan's voice became quieter. That you're creating something beautiful. Another pause. And that you're finally happy. Compassion pulled at Lola's heart. Not the mate bond. Not romantic love. Just compassion. You're a better man than you were 3 months ago. I'm trying. Jordan smiled weakly. Some days are easier. His eyes dropped. Fenris still mourns the bond. Lola said nothing. But we're learning to live with our choices. She looked at him. Have you thought about stepping down as alpha? Jordan laughed bitterly. Every day. Why don't you? Henry. That answer made sense before Jordan explained. He says abandoning my responsibilities would only prove the council right about me being weak. Jordan looked toward the valley. So I stay. His expression hardened with purpose. I lead. Then softer. I try to make Silvercrest into the kind of home you might have been proud of. For what it's worth. Jordan looked at her. I think you're doing well. His eyebrows rose. You ended Omega subjugation. Lola continued. You opened pack trials to outside witnesses. A faint smile touched her face. You banned forced mating arrangements. Jordan looked away. Those changes require courage. It's the least I can do. He studied the growing dark forest community. You're doing something revolutionary. Lola followed his gaze. A society where rank doesn't determine value. Jordan nodded. Exiles become citizens. Children ran between buildings below. The broken become whole. His expression darkened. The council is more afraid of that than Valeriana. Lola turned. Why? Because if this succeeds, Jordan met her eyes. Every existing pack hierarchy can be questioned. Is that a warning? No. His face became grim. It's a promise. Lola's smile disappeared. They will attack again. Jordan looked toward the horizon. Next time, they won't send 50 enforcers. His voice lowered. They'll send thousands. Before Lola could answer, Calvin appeared. Since drinking her blood, his movements had become even quieter. Am I interrupting? No. Jordan stepped backward. I was leaving. He nodded toward both of them. I'll send word if I learn anything. Then he walked away. Calvin stood beside Lola. He still loves you. His tone held no accusation. In his damaged way. I know. Lola leaned against Calvin. But it doesn't matter. She looked up at him. That ship sailed, then smiled, and sank. Calvin wrapped one arm around her shoulders. You're where you want to be? Exactly where. He looked toward the settlement. Even knowing what's coming. Jordan is right. Calvin's jaw tightened. The council will return. Then we're ready. Lola pointed below. We have 800 fighters now. Calvin listened. More arrive every week. She counted. Ruth trains healers. Tommy trains warriors. Juan manages supply routes. Lola looked at him. We're not just refugees anymore. Calvin smiled slightly. No. We're becoming an army. An army requires a general. It does. Lola grinned. A rogue king and a golden Luna. Calvin laughed. I like our chances. Your optimism is terrifying. Good. Lola leaned closer. Let somebody else be terrified for a change. They watched the sunset together. Gold and crimson spread across the sky. Below them, wolves trained. Children played. Builders worked. Families formed. That was the reason for everything. Not revenge. Not territory. Not glory. Freedom. Choice. The right to live without somebody else's boot against your throat. They'll try to destroy us, Valeriana whispered. Let them. We already died once. Lola watched her people. I'm not afraid anymore. The attack came on a moonless night. They should have anticipated it. The warnings had been there. Scouts reported unusual patrols near the border. Council representatives traveled through neutral territories offering threats and promises. Jordan's messages had become increasingly urgent, but Lola and Calvin were so focused on building that they allowed themselves to become distracted. The first explosion struck the eastern perimeter after midnight. Fire erupted into the darkness. Then came screams. Calvin was awake instantly, sword in hand. Defensive positions. His command carried through the settlement. Lola ran toward the flames. She shifted while moving. Months of practice had made the transformation effortless. Golden light surrounded her. Valeriana burst forward. The scene at the perimeter was carnage. The attackers weren't wearing council insignia. They wore black. Faces covered. Military movements. Mercenaries. Hired killers. But behind them, directing the attack, Lola saw silver armbands. Council enforcers. They wanted deniability. If the Dark Forest was destroyed, the council could blame independent mercenaries. Cowards. Valeriana roared. Nearby attackers stumbled. Their wolves instinctively wanted to flee or submit. But these mercenaries were trained to resist alpha commands. They recovered quickly. Silver weapons rose. Calvin appeared beside Lola. He shifted too. His wolf now carried streaks of silver light. Together they attacked. Golden fury. Silver violence. Calvin tore through one line. Lola smashed another. But attackers continued flooding through the breach. 50. 100. More. We can't hold all of them, Calvin sent through the bond. Lola saw cabins burning. There are children. Civilians ran. We have to evacuate. Then a howl rose from the western trees. Deep, powerful. Another answered. Then another. Lola turned. Wolves emerged from the darkness in formation. At their front ran a massive black wolf. Jordan. His voice entered Lola's mind through the lingering memory of their severed bond. You didn't think I would let you fight alone, did you? Silvercrest poured from the trees. Silvercrest stands with the dark forest. Then more wolves appeared behind them. Smaller groups. Neutral packs Lola recognized from Calvin's maps. They had been watching the conflict, waiting to learn whether the Golden Luna's new society could survive. Tonight, they'd chosen. The battle changed. Mercenaries found themselves trapped between Dark Forest defenders and fresh reinforcements. They'd accepted payment to massacre rogues. They hadn't agreed to fight a coordinated coalition. Their lines broke. One by one, they fled. By dawn, the fighting had ended. 23 defenders were dead. 40 more wounded. But the settlement remained standing. Lola shifted back. Blood covered her body. Exhaustion made her sway. Calvin returned to human form and immediately pulled her against him. We won. His mouth touched her hair. We survived, Lola corrected. Calvin nodded. But they'll return. I know. Jordan approached in human form. Henry walked beside him. The council will deny this. Jordan looked at the bodies. They'll claim these mercenaries operated independently. Of course they will. Calvin's jaw tightened. Which means they'll keep attacking us indirectly until we collapse, or give them an excuse for open war. Unless we stop waiting. Everyone looked at Jordan. Calvin narrowed his eyes. What are you suggesting? We take the conflict to them. Jordan's voice became steady. We call every pack tired of the council's rule. He looked toward Lola. We form an alliance. Henry frowned. And? Jordan didn't hesitate. We march on the citadel with enough strength that they can't pretend we don't exist. Henry stared at him. That's rebellion. Yes. Jordan looked at Lola. But wasn't that always the goal? His eyes moved toward the settlement. Tear down the broken system. Then back to her. Build something better. Jordan's voice hardened. You can't do that forever by hiding in this forest. Lola felt Calvin through their bond. Fear. Excitement. Recognition. This was what they'd been moving toward. The point where they stopped being hunted people defending themselves. And became revolutionaries. What do you think? Lola sent. Calvin answered. I think queens don't hide. His silver eyes met hers. They rule. Lola faced the people gathering around them. Her fighters. Her friends. Her family. Spread the word. Her voice carried through the damaged settlement. In 1 month, we hold a summit here. Everyone listened. Every pack harmed by the council. Gold entered her eyes. Every exile. Every victim. Every wolf tired of bowing to corrupt authority. Valeriana's power rose around her. We are finished asking permission to exist. It's time we take our freedom. The roar that answered seemed powerful enough to shake the mountains. The Golden Luna had declared rebellion. Chapter 10. Coronation of Fire. The summit was set for the winter solstice, 1 month after the mercenary attack. During that month, the dark forest changed again. What had begun as a refuge for a few hundred rogues became a rallying point. A physical symbol of an idea that had existed quietly for generations. What if wolves could choose their leaders? What if authority protected people instead of controlling them? What if rank did not determine worth? They came in groups. Small border packs tired of paying tribute to distant alphas who offered nothing in return. Omega communities that had formed after escaping abusive hierarchies. Individual wolves exiled for disrespecting authority. Questioning traditions. Refusing unjust orders. By the winter solstice, more than 3,000 wolves had gathered in and around the dark forest. 3,000 voices asking for change. The council responded exactly as expected. The summit was declared illegal. Anyone attending would be considered in violation of supernatural law. The council threatened sanctions, exile, even execution. Nobody left. On the night of the solstice, an enormous bonfire burned in the same valley where Lola had first encountered Tommy and the other rogues. The location felt appropriate. This was where Lola had first learned that damaged things could heal. That exiles could become family. A raised platform had been constructed. Lola stood on it and looked across thousands of faces illuminated by fire. Every face represented another story, another loss. Another reason to hope. Calvin stood beside her. His silver eyes never stopped scanning for threats. Jordan was there representing Silvercrest and the coalition of reform-minded packs. Juan, Tommy, Ruth. Others who had arrived as damaged exiles now stood as leaders. Beyond the wolves, Lola noticed unfamiliar observers, vampires, bear shifters, several fae. The entire supernatural world was watching. Ready? Calvin whispered. Lola squeezed his hand. No. He smiled. But let's do it anyway. Lola stepped forward. 3,000 wolves fell silent. 6 months earlier, that much attention would have terrified her. She was no longer that girl. 6 months ago, her voice carried across the entire valley without amplification. One of Valeriana's gifts. I knelt at an execution block. Silence deepened. I was going to die for a murder I didn't commit. Lola looked across the crowd. My mate had rejected me. She didn't look toward Jordan. My pack spent 20 years telling me that being wolfless made me worthless. Her voice remained steady. I should have died that day. The fire cracked behind her. The axe fell. Several wolves shifted uncomfortably, but what looked like my ending became my beginning. Gold flickered through Lola's eyes. Instead of dying, I found my wolf. A murmur moved through the gathering. And instead of finding acceptance among the people who judged me, Lola smiled faintly. I found freedom among the people they threw away. Voices of agreement answered. The council says rogues are dangerous. Her tone hardened. Unstable. They claim wolves without traditional pack structures inevitably go mad. Lola spread one hand toward the valley. Look around. Thousands turn toward one another. 3,000 rogues stand here tonight. She raised her voice. Sane. Organized. United. Cheers began. We are not monsters. The cheering grew. We are tired of being told that bloodline decides our worth. More voices. That rank decides our worth. Lola's eyes blazed. That being born with the wrong kind of strength makes someone disposable. The system is broken, someone shouted. Yes. Lola's voice rose. The system is broken. The crowd quieted again. It has been broken for centuries. She began listing what they all knew. Alphas abuse authority because nothing holds them accountable. Omegas are treated like property. Exile is used to remove anyone who questions power. Mate bonds are manipulated for political advantage. Lola paused. And wolves like me, her voice briefly cracked. Wolves who don't fit what the system expects. She looked at the fire, are erased. The valley remained silent. But tonight, we stop accepting that. Lola straightened. Tonight, we create another path. She looked toward Calvin. Not a pack in the traditional sense. Then back to everyone else. A kingdom. Murmurs spread. A place where rank does not determine worth. Lola's voice strengthened. Where laws protect the weakest citizen as surely as they protect the strongest. Where exile is a last resort for serious danger. She paused. Not a weapon used against disagreement. An elderly voice came from the crowd. The council will never permit it. Lola nodded. I know. Then she delivered the next words calmly. Which is why, 3 days from now, the entire gathering seemed to lean toward her. We march on the citadel. Shock erupted. Calvin stepped forward. The council ignored every peaceful request for reform. His voice was steel. They sent assassins. The crowd shouted. They threatened families. Calvin continued. They have demonstrated that they would rather kill us than allow change. He looked across the valley. So we offer them a choice. His silver eyes glowed. Negotiate. A pause. Or fight. Or fight. Another. Reform. Then lower. Or fall. They have 50,000 warriors. Someone shouted. And we have something they don't. Calvin answered immediately. A reason worth dying for. The crowd quieted. Every wolf here was harmed by this system. He pointed toward them. Every one of you has something worth fighting for. His jaw hardened. Numbers don't erase that. Jordan stepped forward next. His alpha voice rolled through the valley. Silvercrest stands with the dark forest. A roar answered. So does River Run. More cheering. Northern Ridge. Tommy's eyes widened. And 15 other packs have formally pledged their support. Jordan surveyed the crowd. Together, they can provide another 10,000 warriors. The response shook the trees. We're not asking anyone to march alone. Ruth came forward. And we're not planning a massacre. Her healer's satchel hung across her body. Our objective is negotiation. She looked toward Lola. If the council accepts peaceful reform, nobody needs to die. But if they force us to fight, Lola stepped forward. We will. Gold burned through her eyes. And we will win. Valeriana's presence rolled through the valley. Because I am no longer only Lola Richardson. Every wolf felt the pressure. I am the vessel of Valeriana. Lola's voice became layered. The golden Luna. She looked across thousands of faces. And any wolf who stands against this rebellion, the fire behind her surged, stands against me. No one moved. Thousands filled the valley. Thousands more waited in allied territories. And at their head stood a creature the council itself feared. So I ask you, Lola raised one hand, will you march with me? The answer began before she finished. Will you stand for a world where your children aren't exiled because they're different? The roar grew. Will you fight for the right to choose your own future? 3,000 voices answered with one word, yes. The march lasted 2 days. Tommy and the other commanders organized the forces into disciplined units. The army stretched for miles. Thousands of wolves, supply wagons, healers, scouts, rogues and recognized packs marching together. Nothing like it had happened before in supernatural history. The council had prepared. When Lola's army finally reached the citadel, thousands of loyalist warriors surrounded it. Armor gleamed beneath the daylight. Weapons had been blessed with silver and wolfsbane, but another group had gathered too. Civilians. Hundreds lined the roads. They watched Lola's forces arrive. Some looked frightened, others curious. Many looked hopeful. Everyone had heard the rumors. The Golden Luna was marching. The outcasts were demanding justice. Even people who had benefited from council rule had begun wondering whether change was possible. Lola stopped the army 100 yards from the gates. Thousands spread behind her. Banners rose. Aurelius appeared high on the citadel wall. The other council members stood around him. Lola Richardson. His amplified voice rolled over both armies. You bring armed forces to the gates of the High Council. He raised his hands. This is treason of the highest order. This is justice delayed. Lola's answer carried just as far. We bring demands. She looked toward the defenders. Not swords. Her expression hardened. Although we're prepared to use both. You cannot threaten the council. I'm not threatening. Lola stepped forward alone. Even Calvin remained behind. It was deliberate. A message. I'm negotiating. She stopped. These are our terms. Aurelius said nothing. First. Lola raised one finger. Exile will no longer be used for minor offenses. Whispers spread along the walls. Only serious crimes qualify, and every accused wolf receives the right to appeal. A second finger. Mate bonds become choice-based. Her gaze remained fixed on the council. No more forced political pairings. Third. Omega wolves receive complete legal rights and protection. Then fourth. Pack alphas who abuse authority can be challenged and removed by their own people. Silence. Aurelius finally spoke. Those are not reforms. His voice sounded almost disbelieving. They would destroy everything we've built. Everything you've built is already rotting. Lola pointed toward her army. 3,000 wolves stand here because your system failed them. She looked toward the watching civilians. Tens of thousands more are waiting to see what happens. Her voice softened. You might defeat us. Some warriors behind her shifted. Your army is larger. Aurelius remained silent. Your weapons are better. Lola took another step. But even if you kill every wolf standing in this valley, she paused. The idea survives. The words carried through the still air. And ideas are harder to kill than people. Lola waited. Or we negotiate. She lowered her hand. We create something better together. Aurelius's expression remained unreadable. A system that protects strength without sacrificing weakness, Lola continued. One that respects tradition but still allows change. Her voice softened. One with room for wolves like me. She glanced toward Valeriana inside herself. Different. Then back to the council. Not dangerous. The hawk-eyed councilwoman stepped forward. Why should we trust you? Lola waited. Golden Lunas have caused wars before. Because I don't want war. No hesitation. I want peace. Lola's eyes sharpened. But not peace purchased through submission. She looked toward her people. Real peace. Where everyone has a voice. The council withdrew into quiet discussion. Minutes passed. Behind Lola, tension tightened through thousands of warriors. Hands rested on weapons. Wolves prepared to shift. Finally, Aurelius faced her. We will consider the demands. Lola's expression changed. Such extensive reforms require deliberation. He continued. Time. Calvin stepped forward beside her. You have 3 hours. Aurelius froze. What? 3 hours? Calvin's voice remained calm. Not, we'll consider it. He looked directly at the ancient council. Not, we need more time. His silver eyes shone. Yes or no? The defenders watched. Reform or war? Calvin folded his arms. Choose. For the first time, the council looked genuinely shaken. They had ruled for centuries. Nobody gave them deadlines. But they could see the army, the watching civilians, the alliances, and Lola, a golden Luna whose very existence challenged everything they believed about blood and power. 3 hours. Aurelius finally agreed. We will answer. The next 3 hours felt endless. Lola sat on a hillside overlooking both armies. Calvin sat beside her. Jordan joined them. Nobody spoke much. There wasn't much left to say. Either the council accepted reform, or thousands would die. No matter what happens. Jordan finally broke the silence. This was the right thing. Lola looked at him, standing against them. He nodded, demanding change. Even if we lose? Especially if we lose. Jordan gave a sad smile. People will remember somebody tried. He looked toward the army. And maybe next time, more people will stand. There won't be a next time. Calvin's voice was firm. Lola glanced at him. We're not losing. He looked offended by the possibility. I refuse to accept that outcome. Lola leaned against him. Through their bond, she felt his determination, his fear, his love, and absolute conviction. Whatever happens, she sent privately. I'm glad I met you. Don't talk like we're dying. Calvin's mental voice immediately answered. We're surviving this. His hand found hers. We're building our kingdom. Then she felt his humor. And we're going to live long enough to become unbearably smug about how right we were. Lola laughed. 3 hours ended. They returned to the field. Aurelius appeared on the walls. Every voice died. The council has reached a decision. Lola stopped breathing. Regarding your demands. The entire world seemed silent. We agree. For one heartbeat, nobody reacted. Then chaos erupted. The army cheered. Council warriors gasped. Civilians shouted. Silence! Aurelius's command forced order. We agree with conditions. Lola listened carefully. Implementation will take place over 5 years, Aurelius continued. A joint committee will supervise the transition. He looked toward Lola, half council representatives, then toward the coalition. Half representatives chosen by your alliance. Lola nodded slowly. And? Aurelius paused. The Dark Forest will receive recognition as an autonomous kingdom. Calvin's hand found Lola's. It will be governed by Calvin Benjamin and Lola Richardson. Tears filled Lola's eyes. Your territory will receive the same legal rights and responsibilities as recognized pack lands. They'd done it. Without a battle. They had actually forced change. However, Lola's stomach tightened again. An autonomous kingdom requires formal recognition. Aurelius's blind eyes seemed to find hers, which requires a coronation. Murmurs began. If you demand to be recognized as royalty, he looked between Lola and Calvin. You must be crowned according to supernatural law. Aurelius raised one hand. Both of you. Calvin squeezed Lola's fingers. We accept. The coronation took place 3 days later. The valley of the summit had been transformed. Someone, probably Juan, had organized almost everything. An arch woven from silver and gold stood at the center. Torches lined every path. Flowers that shouldn't have bloomed during winter covered the valley. Thousands attended. Their own people. Allied packs. Representatives from every major territory. Even several council members appeared, visibly uncomfortable but present. Diana Avila had spent 3 days creating Lola's dress. White silk shimmered gold whenever it caught light. The bodice fit closely. The skirt flowed around her. Lola left her hair unbound. Calvin wore black leather armor embroidered with silver. His dark hair was tied back. His scars remained visible. He looked like a warrior king from an old legend. They approached the arch hand in hand. Jordan waited there to conduct the ceremony. Emotion moved through his eyes. His voice remained steady. We gather to witness the creation of a new kingdom. He looked toward the crowd. A kingdom not born from conquest. His gaze moved toward Lola and Calvin. But from choice. Jordan continued. Not maintained by force. The people listened. But by the will of its citizens. Tommy stepped forward carrying a velvet pillow. 2 crowns rested on it. Calvin's was black iron mixed with silver. Sharp. Severe. Dangerous. Lola's was gold and moonstone. Delicate in appearance. Strong in construction. Jordan lifted Calvin's crown. Calvin Benjamin. Calvin stood straight. Do you swear to protect those who cannot protect themselves? I swear. To lead with wisdom rather than strength alone? I swear. To value every voice in your kingdom, from your strongest warrior to your smallest child? Calvin looked toward the people. I swear. Jordan placed the crown on his head. Then I name you king of the Eclipse Kingdom. A murmur of wonder spread. Where darkness and light meet as equals. Jordan turned toward Lola. Her heart thundered. Lola Richardson. Jordan lifted the golden crown. Do you swear to use your power for protection rather than domination? I swear. To remember where you began, no matter how high you rise. I swear. His voice softened. To ensure that the broken never again believe they are alone. Lola's eyes filled with tears. I swear. Jordan carefully placed the crown upon her head. His hands trembled. Then I name you Queen of the Eclipse Kingdom. Jordan stepped backward. May your reign be just. Lola looked toward her people. May your kingdom flourish. Jordan's voice almost broke. And may you never forget the girl who once knelt at an execution block. Their eyes met, and chose to rise. The valley exploded in cheers. Howls echoed through the mountains. Calvin turned toward Lola. Silver eyes bright. How does it feel to be a queen? Terrifying. Lola laughed. You? Exactly the same. She smiled. Good thing we're doing it together. Calvin pulled her close. He kissed her. Not tentatively, not cautiously. It was a declaration, a promise. When they separated, the crowd had completely lost control. Howling, cheering, laughing. We did it, Valeriana whispered. For once, even the ancient wolf sounded amazed. We actually did it. Lola looked across the kingdom. Yes. The girl they tried to kill had become the queen they were forced to recognize. That night, while celebration filled the valley, Lola and Calvin slipped away. They walked to the cliff behind their cabin. Except it was no longer merely a cabin overlooking a rogue camp. Below them stood a recognized kingdom. Do you think it will last? Lola asked. The peace. She leaned against Calvin. The reforms. Calvin considered the question. Probably not perfectly. She looked up. The council will resist. He continued. Some pacts won't accept change. His arm wrapped around her. There will be challenges. A pause. Maybe wars. Lola exhaled. But we started something they can't reverse. Calvin looked down at the lights of their kingdom. We proved rogues can organize. He smiled. We proved broken people can heal. His gaze returned to Lola. And we proved power doesn't automatically have to corrupt. No pressure then. Lola laughed weakly. Hey. Calvin gently lifted her chin. 6 months ago, you were on your knees waiting for an axe. Lola's smile faded. Today you're a queen, commanding an army. His thumb brushed her cheek. If you survived that transformation, you'll survive whatever comes next. Lola laughed again. Fair. They watched stars emerge overhead. Below them, wolves danced around the bonfires. Children ran without fear. Former exiles had become citizens. The people once called worthless had built something priceless. Footsteps approached. Jordan. He stopped a respectful distance away. I'm leaving for Silvercrest in the morning. Lola smiled. Thank you. He looked surprised. For everything. She meant it. For believing me at the Citadel. Jordan swallowed. For standing with us. Lola paused. For finally becoming the man I should have been 20 years ago? Jordan finished for her. His smile contained sadness. Lola didn't deny it. I still love you. Jordan spoke softly. Probably always will. Calvin remained calm beside her. But I love you enough to be happy that you're happy. Jordan looked toward Calvin. Even if it isn't with me. Calvin surprised both of them by extending his hand. You're welcome in the Eclipse Kingdom whenever you wish. Jordan looked at the offered hand. As an ally, Calvin's expression softened slightly. As a friend, Jordan accepted it. Thank you. He looked at both of them. Then his eyes settled on Lola one final time. Rule well, my queen. Lola smiled. Jordan turned and disappeared into the celebration. That was kind. Lola looked at Calvin, being gracious to him. He earned it. Calvin shrugged. He made terrible mistakes. Lola listened. He admitted them, Calvin continued. And he helped repair what he could. His eyes returned to hers. That's as much as anyone can ask. Lola turned fully inside his arms. She looked at the man who had become her partner, her king, her choice. I love you. Calvin froze. They'd spent months circling around those words. Their bond made the emotion obvious. But hearing it spoken was different. I love you too. His voice was almost a whisper. My queen. He leaned closer. My partner. His forehead touched hers. My choice. They kissed beneath the stars while their people celebrated below. Two damaged people had found wholeness together. Exile had become a kingdom. The golden Luna had awakened on an execution platform. Now she wore a crown, and her reign was only beginning. Epilogue. 3 years later, the cry of a newborn baby echoed through the palace of the Eclipse Kingdom. Lola held her daughter against her chest. Tiny. Perfect. Golden wisps of hair already seemed to shimmer beneath the light. When the baby opened her eyes, they were Calvin's gray. She's beautiful. Calvin stood beside the bed. Tears streamed openly down his scarred face. She's ours, Lola whispered. She was exhausted. And radiant. Ruth finished examining the child. A smile spread across her face. Healthy. Calvin exhaled. Strong. Lola smiled. Then Ruth paused. And Lola looked up. Her wolf is already there. Silence. I can sense it. Ruth looked almost awed. You've given birth to the first natural-born golden Luna in 800 years. Lola looked down at her daughter. The baby had stopped crying. She stared back with an unusual alertness. Juan stood in the doorway. What are you going to name her? Lola didn't need to think. Hope. Calvin looked at her. We're naming her Hope. Lola gently touched the baby's golden hair. Because that's what she represents. Her voice softened. Hope for a future where power and compassion can exist together. Calvin took her hand. A future where broken things can heal. Lola looked toward the kingdom outside, where outcasts can finally come home. The girl who had once been called Wolfless had become a queen. The queen had become a mother. And hope had only just begun.